All right, so tonight we are watching and covering night 3 of the Republican National Convention. So Michael, have you been watching the past couple nights?
No, I've been covering other stuff, but it'll definitely be a nice little thing to watch as a difference.
Okay, yep. It's been actually, believe it or not, well, it's a lot better put together as opposed
Than
to
the DNC.
Oh God, the DNC's was cringe. Total cringe. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. This is. I was actually surprised when I saw how competent this was. It's been so far. Like the DNC one was just not all that great, just objectively speaking. But regardless of what you feel about Republican policy, which I'm no fan of, this is very put together in terms of like production value and the speeches too. I think the worst part was definitely the opening, though. They could have picked somebody better to open the convention than Charlie Kirk.
I've seen some of his stuff. Personally, I don't have too much of an issue. I do hear people hate him, but I don't watch him enough to have a full judgment. I just seen a few of his debates that I agree with, like when he's going after communists and whatnot. But beyond that, I haven't seen much else.
Yeah, I know. It's yeah. I don't know when it's starting. I think it might be 8:30. I think that's when I heard.
You know more about it than me. Like I said, I've been covering other stuff.
Yeah, so the first night, oh God, there are so many speakers up. That's the thing. Hold on. We just had 2 people waiting, and then it's like one person currently viewing.
Well, for the side part, you said that you've been enjoying some of the like what they've been doing on the RNC. So I think you're liking some of their policies and stuff.
Well, some of the stuff, definitely not all of it, but I like the rhetoric. They're definitely going about it in a. They're pushing Trump in a much more positive way than they did back in 2016, in my opinion. But
I agree with that. I mean, I haven't been watching the RNC, but I did check out his agendas. And aside from like some odd ones, like I didn't like how he said he wants to consider a drive-by a terrorist action. Personally, just like with hate crimes, I think it's stupid. A crime is a crime. You don't need to add a little extra sugar on top.
Yeah.
Just punish the person the same way.
That's fair. That's fair.
But beyond that, though, I was happy with what I was seeing.
Yeah, like, oh God, I'm trying to think who, hold on. What is it? I wonder when this is going to start. Hold on. I need to copy and paste it. No, it keeps going back and forth between 1 viewer and 3 viewers, 1 viewer, 3 viewers.
Well, probably because everyone wants to see exactly what we're going to be doing or talking about.
Yeah, that's true.
No different from when you're at the theaters and you say, hey, should I take 5 minutes to go to the bathroom before the movie starts? And you just rush before the beginning starts.
Yeah, I mean, at least they have those like dumb little infomercials at the beginning, which are terrible, but and they don't like say anything at all, but yeah.
But overall, though, hopefully it's a pleasant thing to watch. I mean, between everything else I've been reading and getting into for the last few days, I would definitely not mind seeing something positive on my screen for a bit.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And there is a reason why I left the Democratic support back in 2016 and then went from independent to Republican in 2019.
Yeah, well, so what made you decide to go join the GOP of all things?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part. What
made you decide to join the GOP? Like, I mean, I understand like why you maybe want to like vote for Trump or something, but why why actually join the Republican Party? Like, I mean, unless you're a partisan Republican. That's just my question for you.
I see it more as just like when I was basically a Democrat until 2016. If worst case scenario, I just turn against them if I don't like them. But later on,
but why join the party? Why not just be an independent? Like I'm a registered independent personally. So.
I was too, but reason why I decided to go full Republican, I don't see any reason not to be at the moment. And later on, maybe,
I mean,
if it starts going downhill.
Personally, I don't see a reason or any reason at all for being a registered member of any political party unless you're going to get involved in like party politics, the activism, and getting involved like with your local party or yeah.
Well, keep in mind what I do too, man. I mean, just from my work alone, I document stuff. I mean, you even said in our last stream about how I'm always citing my stuff. That's not just from me going off the top of my head. From 2018 to now, I got like freaking 30, 40 documents packed with like at the smallest 12 pages, at the average 30 to 40 pages, on the max 91 pages.
How are you doing this all on your phone? How are you doing this all on your phone? Why don't you get like save up for a computer?
I'm actually getting the process of doing that. I just never needed to, but now I'm running out of storage on my phone, so I need to get at least something else.
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
Well, yeah, especially with what I do. But my point is, I mean, at that point, I think I qualify for someone who wants to participate in some of this stuff in more ways than one, and my behavior backs that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. But so wait, in your state, do you have to be a member of a political party in order to vote in a primary? Because I live in an open primary state, which means like you can just vote in any primary you want.
I was actually told when I was originally going to stay as an independent that it wouldn't really matter because my state's all blue. So I was like, oh, no, I will go full Republican then. They're like, you sure? I was like, oh, yeah.
I mean, might as well. I mean, right now, I really don't like either party. I think that they're both, I don't know, I think they're both kind of bullshit. They have been bullshit since the 90s. The Democrats were actually okay in the 90s, I think.
I agree. I felt
like, say what you want about Bill Clinton, terrible person, total fucking creep, but like, he had some okay policies. I'm not gonna lie.
I agree. I personally enjoyed the 90s days of politics, but you had a lot more cohesion then. You actually had people arguing, but also agreeing. You didn't have like what we have right now, where you have Chuck Schumer, Pelosi, all of the 9 groups out of there. Well, not 9 specifically. I'm just saying that out of my ass for random reasons. Yeah. But it's not like the whole 9 yards where now everyone's just sabotaging everything just to make Trump look bad. I really can't say there's any cohesion anymore to be found. At least before, people would bite their teeth and they say, oh, right, I'll freaking vote for this policy for the people. Now it's like, screw the people, we need Trump to look bad. Sorry.
That was I know, it was the DNC convention just struck me as rather negative. Like, they barely talked about policy. That's the one thing that struck me. They did not talk about policy very much. And the interesting thing, the RNC one doesn't even really have, they're not really going with identity politics. The closest thing to identity politics they're doing is they're showcasing a diverse range of Republican voters. And for optics' sake, I think that that's absolutely brilliant.
Well, I mean, why would you want to talk about identity politics any further when it's been nothing but a hassle for everyone in more ways than one?
Well, I mean, the Democrats seem to think that it gets voters, so.
Yeah, maybe the minority, and I don't mean like racial minority. I'm saying strictly like small numbers.
Exactly what you mean. I know what you mean.
But yeah, maybe that would be possible. But at that point, you're just like preaching to the choir.
Yeah. But I think it's going to start. I want to say 8:30. That's when it's going to come on. Because I know the past ones have been like 2.5 or 3 hours, something around there. I just saw some people getting ready for whoever the hell's going to speak first. Because I think the Pences are speaking tonight, and some other people. Oh God, I forget who. There's a lot. There's a list of the lineup. Is that a dog?
Yeah, we have a small little. I think it's called a Prince Charles. It tends to get very loud.
Oh, well, yeah, no, or King Charles. My dog is half King Charles Cavalier, half Toy Poodle.
Yeah, and they just want massive amounts of attention too.
Well, they have a lot of anxiety, I think
I
that's probably.
noticed.
I think that's that's mostly the poodle. The poodle in him. These poodles are like really smart. They're like, I'm pretty sure they're the smartest breed of dog. I could be wrong.
I've always heard that it's more so like the ones like Golden Retriever and German Shepherd. I heard are pretty much the top dogs when it comes down to intelligence, but that's only by what I heard.
I think that's in terms of loyalty or something.
I mean, that would make sense. I mean, my old Golden Retriever used to be like that.
Yeah. No, you need to take some like cough drops or something.
Dude, I've been taking everything.
More sleep, because it doesn't seem like you sleep very much.
I can't get much sleep right now, so I've just been working out and exhausting myself physically and mentally between work. It helps that much does. Yeah. I just can't get much else other than that. If I work out like in another hour or two and get myself to the point where my legs are tired and then do some more documentation and archiving, I will probably get another 2 or 3 hours extra sleep out of my normal 3 to 2 hours.
I'd recommend trying melatonin or something. That actually does work.
Like I've been taking NyQuil.
Take the CBD melatonin because it allows for like a natural, natural sleep, all that stuff.
I mean, I've been taking NyQuil. Also been drinking tea. Doesn't really help.
That works. I mean, the tea is always nice. I mean, it definitely isn't a remedy though for whatever it is you have.
I think it's just fatigue. I have a few things that I need to sort out, but sadly it's not just involving me, so I have to basically wait for people to actually take time. But if not, I carry my own luggage.
Oh, okay. You smoke? Because I could always be a smoker, Scott.
No, I don't. This started happening when I started dealing with a few things involving me and a few other people, and it resulted in me not getting any sleep.
Oh, okay. So, well, yeah, then I'd suggest working on that.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's not just me, so it becomes a thing where I have to discuss stuff, but sadly, a few people don't want to do it. So I'm just like, okay, well, fuck all of you, and I move on with my day. Not every single person gets to fuck you, but it still results in me being like, all right, well, I guess I'm still going solo, moving on.
I think let's see. Okay. Yeah, I'm surprised though that you of all people haven't been at least keeping up with some of it.
I keep up enough. Like I said, I got to see about good old Trump's agendas. That's why I was able to say, oh, well, I heard about the drive-by terrorist thing he wants to put in. I think that's stupid. Because like I said, I don't even believe in hate crimes. I think if you're doing a crime, then just get arrested for the crime. You don't need to make it special.
I do agree with that. I mean, as a consequentialist, I think that action is far more important than intent, at least, especially in terms of the legal justice system and all that.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter if you're killing a certain race or beating up a random like sex.
I mean, I think genocide might be a little different.
Well, genocide's a different kind of concept at that point. I'm just saying, like the individual. At that point, it doesn't matter. The person's still doing the crime. I get it if they were like, I'm going to completely commit like the worst kind of crime to this entire family line, then I'd be like, okay, maybe throw something in there extra. But it doesn't need a label. It just needs a few extra things, just like how they have 1st and 3rd degree stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that makes sense. I honestly, I do feel like a lot of it is, honestly, a bit of it is virtue signaling because I mean, it doesn't really change much anymore. Like for instance, when they recently voted or put something in Congress about making lynching a federal hate crime or something, when lynching is not only a crime in all 50 states, but is also a hate crime in all 50 states. It's not going to change anything. That's just a waste of time voting on that. Like, I mean, it definitely struck me as virtue signaling legislation. I mean, it's like, it's like why not start putting like body cams on cops or something? Now, that's a legislation that's actually going to not only be popular, but it's also going to do something. And then, and then in terms of like, for instance, the Confederate statues and stuff, like, I mean, I agree. I've come to agree with the argument that they shouldn't be in certain places. Like they'd be better off maybe in like a museum or something. Well, actually, personally, I think that townships should vote to like do a referendum. However, I do not believe that they are appropriate on like federal federal land. But that said, legislation or something like that to remove the Confederate statue. I mean, I think that is meaningless next to, like I said, body cams or like getting rid of no-knock raids. Actually, getting to the systemic problem, not the cultural aspect. I feel like there is too much legislation that focuses on cultural things as opposed to systemic things.
Well, I mean, when you say systemic, are you referring to systemic racism?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So in terms of like I said, I mean, because it is a fact that black people are disproportionately, I don't want to say targeted because I don't know if it's intentional or not. It depends on the individual, but victims of police brutality as opposed to, for instance, I mean, no.
At the moment, I would not agree. Not during 2020, especially. No.
It's not a matter of agreeing or not agreeing. That's what the statistics show. I mean,
well, let me ask you this real fast. Well, let me ask you this. Currently, we're living in a point where not only prior 2020, you had a lot of people supporting any kind of black community to the point between them getting extra funding for college, getting extra breaks when it comes down to what they have to score to get into university, and so much more between grants and everything else.
Oh, I'm specifically talking about the criminal justice system.
I know. I'm getting to that. I just want to point out something. Basically, you have all this stuff sewn into it. And then on top of it, now you have it set to where any kind of crime that any person in a black community is committing, like the one that just recently happened in Kenosha, you now have it set to where people are now saying, even if that person is wrong, it's still police brutality. Now, the most recent thing happened, a woman called the cops on a man that not only has sexual assault, domestic abuse, and trespassing on a warrant for his arrest. He was harassing a woman who claimed he was trespassing against. So I'm under the impression it's the same woman that got him for trespassing before. And he was stealing her keys. And it became a big thing to the point where the cops got called. Now, the dispatch just got released today. If you look it up, there's a dispatch in the article covering it. And they're discussing in that whole article about how the cops were being called in there because this guy would not leave her alone. It got to the point where the cop called for backup because this guy refused to listen. He was armed with a knife and possibly a gun. Now, just today, like maybe another hour or so ago, maybe 4 or 3, I'm not sure when exactly, a post came out explaining how he did admit that he had a knife because people weren't sure if he did, even though there's video footage of him carrying it in his hand. And this man ended up getting to the point where 3 cops had to beg him not to do anything.
It's starting.
Well, I mean, it's still going silent, but moving on. To summarize,
You're watching, right?
Yeah, but I just want to finish my point.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
So this gentleman ended up getting to the point where it took 3 cops to beg him. Now you see in the footage, this guy has his shirt being tugged on. The cops are begging and pleading with him, please comply. Stop resisting. They're pulling on his shirt like a kid pulling on his parents' shirts when they're begging for a toy. And this guy is refusing to listen while he's already got done fighting them. Goes in his car to grab something, and the report says that there was a gun, but it hasn't been proven yet. And the cop shot him 7 times, which I agree is a little excessive.
Let's finish this later because the convention is started now.
If you say so. Would you mind clowning it up, though?
Turning it up?
Yeah, because I can't hear it.
Hear it now?
Like I can't hear it at all. I can't even hear it at all. How did you play it before when you were playing videos?
Oh, hold on a second. I may have. Hold on.
Heroism inspires us to act
hear it now?
when others are in need.
Yep. I mean, it's breaking in and out a little bit, but I actually hear it now.
Okay, good.
Dream heroic dreams. Celebrate America.
Yeah, but see, the production value is definitely better than the Democratic convention.
I wouldn't care about the production value as long as the actual policies, or at least any kind of thing that these people are doing, is valuable. Not what you're seeing from the DNC.
People only care about production value. So that's why they're doing it.
Yeah, those are the people that say they're in love with someone just because they have a nice butt.
Yeah.
That's not me. I care about the quality, not the packaging. Now, if I start seeing everything in Crayola crayon, then yeah, I may say something then.
Lord, Almighty God, we come before you this evening and pray for your divine protection over our brothers and sisters in the path of storms along our Gulf Coast. You are our rock and our shelter in the midst of the storms of life. You are the God who commands the winds and the waves, and we pray that you will provide refuge to our people. O Lord, you have granted us certain natural rights, such as the right to speak freely, life, liberty,
What are your
the pursuit of
thoughts on
happiness,
doing a prayer
as well
before
as
the
religious
convention?
freedom, the right to assemble.
I'm
and the
not really
right
that
to
religious, but
self-defense.
if I
Only in America
find that it's okay,
have
I
these
don't mind it.
God-given rights so flourished and been categorized as belonging to the people, embodying the very essence
Personally,
of
I don't
our
see an issue
government.
with these guys doing it.
Father,
Yeah, neither do
we
I.
pray that this outlook and mindset, this form of government continues, as has been our history, especially now when, to our horror, it is being challenged. And so we pray that God gives strength and health to our president, who has splendidly demonstrated daily his determination to defend and maintain the God-given rights of our citizens, as enshrined in our Constitution and in our Declaration, eloquently passed down through our Judeo-Christian tradition. President Trump has stood up fearlessly against those
Interesting
who are
that they're having a
promoting
rabbi
the
do it.
term social justice.
See,
It's better than what's
see what I
been
mean?
recently
They're,
going.
Americans,
see what I mean?
their
In terms,
birthright,
they're going
and
for
these
the
divine gifts.
diverse
May
representation.
God protect him.
Well,
May
with
God bless
this, it's
all
still
those in
definitely
government
better than
and
not
among
doing
our
it.
citizens who seek
Oh yeah,
to
no, I'm not
honor,
criticizing. I'm just
defend,
saying
and
it's an
preserve
observation.
our heritage. This land was founded in an epic and
I think at this
providential
point, though, they're
moment.
probably seeing it
Like the
that it's
revelation
probably
at
best at this
Sinai,
point to do
it
this
was the
and
moment
doing what the
the vision
Democrats
of
have been
God
promoting and going for.
rendezvoused with the soaring and noble plans of appointed men. Yet, every so often, apace various generations, we are compelled to resurrect and give rebirth to our providential beginning, to renew our present days with the exuberance of those founding days. Perhaps that is what is meant when we say, "Make America great again." We pledge to vigilantly protect and tend the garden so as to imbibe its blessed fruits. May God continue to make America great, and may we continue to be his people, one nation, under God. And let us say, Amen.
See, I'm not going to deny. I like how he says that ending part, especially since it's been a while since I actually heard something wholesome.
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Like, I used
for
to
all.
hate that entire phrase because I used to say it so much growing up because of my family, but that, it's been a long time, and I prefer that over what I've been hearing.
Good evening. I'm Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota. I'm here tonight because I believe America is an exceptional nation, founded on three principles: equality, freedom, and opportunity. But today, our founding principles are under attack. This year, the choice for Americans is between a man who values these ideals and all that can be built because of them, and a man who isn't guided by these ideals, and coincidentally, has built nothing. Remember, America's battle for independence and fight for self-governance was something that had never been done before. Men of great intellect and wisdom, like James Madison, the father of our Constitution, hoped our constitutional republic would last for ages, mitigate the problems that would naturally arise from political factions, and prevent tyranny. Madison also authored much of the Bill of Rights because he understood the natural tendency of government to increasingly encroach on the people's consent, and thus our freedom. He urged his colleagues to adopt these amendments to enshrine in our Constitution the ideals laid out in the Declaration of Independence, that all power comes from the people, that the government is created and ought to be exercised for the benefit of the people. Our Constitution guarantees the right to speak, to assemble, and to worship, the right to arm ourselves as a counterbalance to a standing army, and the right to a fair and equitable criminal justice system. We must fight to protect these foundational rights from government interference and indifference. America is unique in the world. Government's power at all levels is limited to the confines of our Constitution, which protects our God-given liberties and civil rights. We are not and will not be the subjects of an elite class of so-called experts. We, the people, are the government. Now, at times, our country has struggled to live up to our founding principles. Another great American, Abraham Lincoln, knew that struggle better than anybody. When he was just 28 years old, Honest Abe saw wild and furious passions worse than savage mobs, he said, taking the place of reasoned judgment. He was alarmed by the increasing disregard for the rule of law throughout the country. He was concerned for the people that had seen their property destroyed, their families attacked, and their lives threatened or even taken away. These good people were becoming tired of and disgusted with a government that offered them no protection. Sound familiar? It took 244 years to build this great nation, flaws and all. But we stand to lose it in a tiny fraction of that time if we continue down the path taken by the Democrats and their radical supporters. From Seattle and Portland to Washington and New York, Democrat-run cities across this country are being overrun by violent mobs. The violence is rampant. There's looting, chaos, destruction, and murder. People that can afford to flee have fled, but the people that can't, good, hardworking Americans, are left to fend for themselves. The Republican Party's commitment to individual rights and self-government is as necessary today as it was in 1860 when we won our first presidential election. Our party respects individuals based on who they are. We don't divide people based on their beliefs or their roots. We don't shun people who think for themselves. We respect everyone equally under the Constitution, and we treat them as Martin Luther King Jr. wished, according to the content of their character, not the color of their skin. In just 4 years, President Trump has lifted people of all races and backgrounds out of poverty. He shrunk government. He put money back into the pockets of hardworking, ordinary Americans. He has advanced religious liberty. He protected the Second Amendment. You can look back 50 years. You won't find anyone that has surpassed President Trump's success on these 4 issues alone. History chooses its heroes for the time in which they live. At our founding, Madison was one of the chosen. When the nation's very existence was challenged, it was Lincoln's turn. Thanks to these men, America is a land of hope. Their examples have been repeated in countless ways by simple Americans following their conscience. But there is another American hero to be recognized, and that is the common American. This is who President Trump is fighting for. He's fighting for you.
Who is this? Who did it say she was?
I don't know who her name is, but I mean, I definitely enjoyed what she was saying. I'm not so sure about what she said about how Trump has done better than any other president with the stuff that she listed off, but I do agree that he has done a lot more good than what we've currently been getting, and from anyone prior 2016.
Great American story from the beginning.
Who is this guy?
In fact, if you go to the Capitol Rotunda and look up, you can see loggers on one of the panels. New England settlers carving out a new world from the wilderness. But logging is the most dangerous job in the country. But we embrace that risk because we know America was built by strong people building things together. America needs us to keep building, and we can't wait to be a part of it. But the last time Joe Biden was in the White House, Minnesota lost nearly half of its mills.
And if anybody
jobs,
watching
and experienced nearly
has
a
any
decade of
questions or wants to
decline.
interact with us,
It was a similar
type in the
story in
chat
other parts
and
of the country.
we'll interact.
The administration just didn't seem to care. In 47 years in Washington, Joe Biden hasn't done anything for the timber industry. When plants closed in Duluth, Sartell, Cook, and Bemidji, they were just numbers on a paper to the Obama-Biden administration. To me, they were people and jobs and families. Under Obama-Biden, radical environmentalists were allowed to kill the forests. Wildfire after
I think that's a bit
wildfire shows the
hyperbolic, honestly.
consequences.
That part.
Managed forests.
I mean, I get where
what?
you, I mean, I
in,
know
are
about
healthy
like saying, oh
forests.
yeah, Obama's trying to kill
Under
the
President
forests.
Trump,
Like,
we've seen a new recognition of the value of
I
forest
mean,
management.
I
in
can't
reducing
dispute it,
wildfires.
but I mean, out of
we've seen-
I don't
everything
know-
people
I
have
don't
been
know enough
accusing
about
Trump
it.
of doing,
where a
like
strong
from what
back
I've
and a
heard,
strong
from what I do
work
know, like
ethic
what
can build
people
a strong
blame
middle
going after
class.
Trump for bombing,
We
what
want
was it,
to build
Iran?
families where we were
Obama got
raised
praised for
and
it. I don't
stand like
understand why they
communities that
split
stood by
hairs.
us.
So in that
We
situation,
want
I
that
can't
way of
dispute
life
it, but I
available
believe
for the
it.
next generation, and we want our forests there too. President Trump, thank you for helping us do just that.
one thing this is like, I was thinking about this last night when I was watching. It's like an awards show, whereas the Democratic one was like a was like a YouTube mashup. It was like,
Hi, I'm U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. America is a nation of heroes. In times of difficulty, we're reminded that they're all around us. They're in the line with us at the grocery store, in the pew with us at church. They're the regular Americans who step up to volunteer and serve when we need them most. They've stood at the forefront throughout this pandemic. The emergency room nurses who go back shift
looks like
after shift.
he dropped for
The
a second.
medical
He'll be coming
researchers
back.
developing a vaccine and therapies to combat what the Chinese Communist regime unleashed on the world. Cookville's Double Springs Church
Yeah, you
of
lost.
Christ
Sorry
members
about that.
lifting
Yeah,
our
don't worry.
country up in prayer and providing for those impacted by tragedy. But tonight, I want to talk to you about another kind of hero, the kind Democrats don't recognize because they don't fit into their narrative. I'm talking about the heroes of our law enforcement and armed services. Leftists try to turn them
Okay,
into
armed
villains.
services. That's it. I get
They
the law
want to
enforcement part, but
cancel them.
I mean, I honestly know more
But I'm here to
Democratic
tell
war
you,
veterans than I do Republican
these
war veterans.
heroes
I mean, I know the
can't
military
be
generally tends to lean
canceled.
conservative in terms of their personal
Tennessee
views,
is full
but
of them.
this is
After
just like
all,
my
we're the
personal
volunteer state.
look. I honestly,
Yeah, but
I think it's
served in the
libertarians
Army in
who
World
disparage
War
the
II.
military
When he
more than
came
anyone
home,
else, more than
he put
leftists.
on another
Well,
uniform.
yeah,
and
that's
for
true in
30
that, but they
years
are telling the truth about some stuff.
volunteered
Like, for
to help
example, they're
our
not denouncing the
underfunded
Antifa or anything, but
sheriff's
Antifa
department.
jumped about, I
I'm
think, in
reminded of
2018,
him
2 Marines and that
whenever
because they
I
were
see
near a
compassion,
Proud Boys
Yep.
rally.
Yep,
selflessness
exactly.
in others.
And then they're like,
And
are you
See,
guys
law
proud? Are you guys
enforcement
Proud Boys? And they're
officers
like, I mean, we're
put
boys
their
and we're
lives
proud.
on
And
the
then they got,
line every
yeah,
single
because they
day
thought they meant like proud to be Marines. And
Yeah.
when
in spite
and they
of
ended
the
up
hatred
getting
thrown at
aggravated, they ended
them.
up attacking the Marines.
When
One
I
of them
see
was
the
Mexican, and they
heroes who
started calling
volunteer to
him
serve our
a
country,
white supremacist. He says,
putting
"I'm
their
Mexican," and they
lives
continue to beat the
on
crap
the
out of him.
line for our freedom. Many of these heroes call Tennessee
So in that
home,
point,
and
they're
we
not
could not
wrong.
be more proud
The Democrats
of the
haven't done anything to
brave
stop
men
that,
and
and they've been
women
nothing but
of the
promoting it now.
101st Airborne Division at Fort Campbell. The common thread between them is a deep-seated desire to serve a cause larger than themselves. They don't believe their country owes them anything. They believe they owe their country and their fellow man. As hard as Democrats try, they can't cancel our heroes. They can't contest their bravery, and they can't dismiss the powerful sense of service that lives deep in their souls. So they try to defund them, our military, our police, even ICE, to take away their tools to keep us safe. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and their radical allies try to destroy these heroes because if there are no heroes to inspire us, government can control us. They close our churches, but keep the liquor stores and abortion clinics open. They say we can't gather in community groups, but encourage protest, riots, and looting in the streets. If the Democrats had their way, they would keep you locked in your house until you become dependent on the government for everything. That sounds a lot like communist China to me. Maybe that's why Joe Biden is so soft on them. Why Nancy Pelosi says that China would prefer Joe Biden.
That is true. That is true.
I bet they would. But President Trump has stood up for our heroes every day. He stood by our law enforcement, our military, and
I would agree if it was not this year. But
I mean, he's more of a shill,
honestly. He's made good on his promise to put him first.
I don't know, man.
Stand with me.
But Trump's an opportunist. Everybody knows that.
Send him back.
I'm not saying he's not an opportunist, but as far as a shill, I'm looking at what I've been reading, man. And again, I got a 45-page document that can back up what I can say.
It's like an award show.
Hi, I'm Congressman Dan Crenshaw.
Yeah, it's an award show, but
it's Pirate McCain. Pirate McCain.
Close friend and teammate laid down.
I mean, even if it's an award show, I say they earned the award at this point.
To the medevac helicopter and survive.
Medevac.
But he didn't. Dave Worson was killed 2 months later. He died a hero to this great country. Here's the truth about America. We are a country of heroes. I believe that. So should you. We are a people with a common set of ideals conceived in liberty. People that have sacrificed time and again for our freedom and the freedom of others. That's something no other country ever, anywhere can claim. Since 9/11, I've seen America's heroes up close. Some of them saved my life. Some of them saved many others' lives. Many of them never made it home. These heroes acted as if the whole struggle depended on them alone, as if any weakness on their part would be a reflection of the whole nation. That's called duty. And America has a long history of it. Our enemies fear us because Americans fight for good.
So viewers, comment what your opinion is on Crenshaw.
When our heroes are trusted and equipped,
kind of want to hear what you guys
freedom
think.
Prevails. The defeat of ISIS was the result of America believing in our heroes. Our president having their backs and rebuilding our military so we'd have what we needed to finish the mission. The cowering of the Iranian regime and the restoration of the deterrence once lost is the result of America believing in her own might again. America's heroism isn't relegated to the battlefield. Every single
Getting
day,
strong imperialism vibes here.
I mean, he's just talking about America, man. I get it if you were sitting there saying, yeah, let's keep Trump for another 9 years, and I agree.
I mean, at least he's being honest.
Letting their kid fall behind while school is
but again, I don't think it's imperialism. Imperialism would be like, hey, let's keep Trump in for another 9 more decades. And I'd be like, okay.
No, that has nothing to do with imperialism. Imperialism is geopolitical. It has nothing to do with politics. But hey, I'm a non-interventionist, but I'm not necessarily
an even as her whole world comes crashing down, she stands up straight, she holds back tears, and takes care of her family because she must. This is what heroism looks like. It's who we are. Nation of heroes. We need you now more than ever. We need to remind ourselves what heroism really is.
I actually think this guy could.
Heroism is self-sacrifice.
I see him in maybe like
moralizing,
a couple election cycles being a formidable Republican candidate.
Not perpetual outrage.
Oh yeah, like, Crenshaw would definitely do a lot of good if he ended up trying to go for it. I'm just not sure how he is.
That's not even what I'm saying. I'm just saying he would make a good
symbols that unite us. Not.
I don't know enough about his policies. I mean, he seems like a decent guy.
Woven from the threads of history.
I really don't know. I've heard that some of his stuff I would not like, but I haven't really looked into him. I do know about when that one far leftist threw a fit about him and said that he should have been effed in the eye and everything.
No, that wasn't a far leftist. It was just some guy.
We can decide right now.
I'm pretty sure that guy's apolitical. I know.
Nor squandered.
Plus then Crenshaw went on the next week and was making fun of him for his failed relationship with oh
And
God,
it
what's
must
her
be an
name?
endeavor undertaken by each and every one of us.
Ariana
We
Grande.
must become the heroes that we so admire.
Like I said, that's the
America
only
was
thing
built
I
by
know
them.
about as far as anything
Our
detailed,
future will
only
be
because of how that
protected
guy
by
got.
It will be protected by you. So God bless America.
Good evening. I'm retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg. In 1967, at the age of 22,
Columbus
I
sailed
volunteered
the
to
ocean
serve my
blue.
country in Vietnam. From the jungles of Vietnam to the deserts of Iraq,
At least that's a
I have
nice
gone
rhyme.
where my nation asked. I have borne witness to soldiers' last moments on earth, their lives spent in hope and promise of a better future for all Americans. I was in the Pentagon on September 11th, 2001. I lost friends there that day. In the years that followed, I watched my daughter, son, and son-in-law deploy to Afghanistan. I have looked into the eyes of my grandchildren as they said goodbye to their fathers and hugged them one last time. I lived service. I understand sacrifice. I know leadership. Over the past 3.5 years, I have witnessed every major foreign policy and national security decision by the president. I have been in the room where it happened. I saw only one agenda and one guiding question when tough calls had to be made. Is this decision right for America? When President Donald Trump took office, decades of failed foreign policy had crippled us. He faced wars without end in sight, creation of failed states like Libya and Syria, a past that allowed a terrorist caliphate to grow, and leadership in Washington that allowed our military to atrophy while we spent trillions of dollars abroad instead of investing at home. President Trump has reversed the decline of our military and restructured our national security strategy. With historic investment and vision, our military is now better equipped, better resourced, and better manned than any military in the world. President Trump.
This is something I'm gonna have to fact check
the terrorist ISIS
tomorrow.
caliphate in the Middle East.
I don't buy. I mean, I'm just saying this neutrally, but the U.S. military was definitely more centrally mobilized under Barack Obama, and even more. Actually, Obama's central, like Obama's military was even more complex than George W. Bush. I'm not saying, and I'm saying that as somebody who's generally anti-militarism.
As we upheld ours.
Well, I mean, yeah, Obama was doing a lot of military-based stuff. That's why I was saying earlier about how I didn't understand why the Democrats split hairs, where it's okay for Obama to bomb Iran, but it's not okay for Trump.
Well, Obama never bombed Iran.
Well, I'm sorry, the correction. At most I could say it's Middle East, but whoever they ended up bombing, it's bad for Trump, but not bad for Obama. I wasn't quite aware of why that mattered.
Yeah.
But make no mistake, President Trump is no hawk. He wisely wields the sword when required, but believes in seeking peace instead of perpetual conflict. Just over a week ago, our president brokered a peace agreement between the United Arab Emirates and Israel, the first in the Middle East in over 25 years. And this week, Afghan negotiators, with help from American officials, will start peace negotiations between the Taliban and the Afghan government to end America's longest war. Ask yourself, has this president kept his promises to keep us out of needless conflicts and to pursue ending wars without end?
He hasn't started a new war yet, so I'm gonna give Trump that.
And he's been trying to prevent ones too, especially when he was the only president without bodyguards that went to North Korea.
He fulfilled his commander-in-chief role by
could have been kidnapped right there, and no one could have stopped it. I didn't see Obama doing that.
The answer is yes. The choice is clear. This is the most important election of our lifetime.
Oh yeah.
The next 4 years.
Well, that's what they say every year, every election year. I don't buy. That's a bunch of
Well, I would agree, but not after this year. This year, I would say it definitely does.
what it was once like in America. When men
honestly,
and
I
women
think the
were free,
best argument
our families were secure,
theoretically
and we had a
for
president
voting for Trump
who served the
would
people.
be because of the
God bless
COVID.
America.
It's often in
Thank
the
you,
midst of a
and good
crisis,
night.
like a leadership change is not necessarily most conducive. That's exactly, which is exactly why Bush was elected again in 2004, because wars in the Middle East, and because it's just the administration was already dealing with that, and it's more pragmatic not to completely like cut that off. Okay, who's this?
I would agree if it was any
Good
other
evening.
situation, but
My
I
name
can't
is
agree
Kara
when it comes down
Myers.
to right now. I'll say why in a
Tonight,
minute.
I am here as a wife and mother to share how education freedom has personally impacted my family, especially the life of my son Samuel. Before Samuel was even born, I was told his life wouldn't be worth living. When early tests revealed he had Down syndrome, our doctor encouraged me to terminate the pregnancy. He said, if you do not, you will be burdening your life, your family, and your community. I knew my baby was a human being created by God, and that made him worthy of life. I am thankful that President Trump values the life of the unborn. When we went to register Samuel for kindergarten, we were told to just put him where he would be
Okay, yeah,
comfortable.
Trump doesn't give a shit
Don't
about
stress him
abortion.
out by
That's more
trying to
like
teach him.
for he's pandering to his base there.
When we
He didn't have a
pushed for
change
him
of
to
heart.
attend
He's
his
been
neighborhood
he's
school
been
with his
pro-choice
sisters, we
since
were
like
told,
the 80s.
just go home
But then
and
again,
let us do what we do.
I really don't
When I inquired
care
about
either way.
functional learning, I was told, this is all you get, like it or not. Well, I did not like it. One size did not fit all. So I helped fight to pass legislation in Ohio for a special needs scholarship so that all students could choose the right program for their needs. I worked to start a new functional learning program at our local private school. Finally, Samuel had an appropriate place to learn. Last December, Samuel was invited to the White House to meet our president and share his thoughts on education freedom. He said, school choice.
Honestly, this is my biggest issue, school choice.
My school
like I honestly I don't understand
best.
why anybody
would
oppose it. It's just I honestly find people who oppose the idea of school choice to be completely morally bankrupt.
Teachers helped me become
You're
the
talking
best
about
I
just
can
having
be.
the option to go either homeschool or to school,
Trump
right?
shook
Yeah,
my hand
exactly.
and said, wonderful job,
Well,
Mom.
some people are
Your
currently
son is
in
amazing.
California and a few other blue
Unlike the
states. They've been
doctor who
complaining,
told
saying they
me
want to get rid of those kind
end
of
Samuel's
options so you
life
can only
before it
go
even
to their
began,
school.
President Trump did not dismiss my son. He showed Samuel he valued him and was proud.
Actually, in fact, a few days ago, they're now putting out waivers asking parents not to listen in on the online classes because it's going to have some questionable things in it.
Extend my thanks to President
And they don't want to
Trump
be sued.
and his administration for their work towards making every student's dream of a meaningful education a reality, and for fighting to ensure every child in America has an equal seat at the table of education freedom and an equal opportunity in life. Thank you, and may God bless America.
Now, as far as the whole thing you said before about maybe not a good thing during a pandemic to get rid of Trump, I would agree maybe in any other time, but right now I would vote for him as far as if I use that as a factor, just because he's the only one trying to stop it. Unlike the Democrats who have been like avoiding it, like, well, you remember from our last stream.
It all started at a tea party.
Really, he's the only one doing anything right while this in there trying to spread it to propaganda and politics.
Separated countrymen into two opposing camps. One determined to keep African American people enslaved. The other determined to see all people free. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott felt the call to fight for that freedom when they were selected as delegates for an anti-slavery convention. But upon arrival, were told they could not speak or vote at the male-dominated event. On July 9, 1848, Mott, Stanton, and 3 other women met for tea. By the end of the day, they'd formed a coalition with the sole purpose of gaining the right for women to vote, so they in turn would be free to fight for the freedoms of others. Women across America united and formed activist groups working tirelessly to win the vote for American women. The unconquerable Susan B. Anthony became one of the most visible leaders of women's suffrage when, in 1872, she registered and voted for every Republican on the ballot. As punishment for her actions, she was arrested for illegal voting. At the request of Susan B. Anthony, Senator A.A. Sargent introduced the 19th Amendment in 1878. The Susan B. Anthony Amendment was submitted and defeated 4 times, but women continued to fight. Sojourner Truth and many other Black suffragettes defied segregation, fighting for all women's voices to be heard and allowed to vote. For the 2 years prior to ratification, the Silent Sentinels quietly picketed the White House. Finally, when Republicans regained control of Congress, on August 26, 1920, the Equal Suffrage Amendment was signed into law. Women's suffrage movement took 72 years and would change the lives of women forever. The victory was achieved peacefully through the valiant efforts of women patriots.
See, they're out progressiving the progressives here. I think it's kind of hilarious.
In a bold declaration of rights
That's
for
the
women,
best part.
President Trump granted
And
a
it's being
full
consistent. It's not like they just did it at random.
Anthony on the 100th
Great-
anniversary of the
great
19th
optics.
Amendment's
Like-
ratification. Women's suffrage was born from a desire to fight for the freedom of others. Now, we, the great patriots of America, will band together once again, and with one unified voice.
And it also helps that, unlike the progressives who are just white supremacists with guilty consciences, they're basically just winging it genuinely.
I'm Kayleigh McEnany. You may know me as a supporter of President Trump.
No, I don't. I don't know
But
who you
tonight,
are.
I'm here to share with you how he supported me.
But I know she has a good set of hair on her. I mean, that's definitely flowy.
Condition. When I was 21 years old, I got a call that changed my life. It was my doctor informing me that I had tested positive for the BRCA2 genetic mutation.
Ooh, genetic
A
mutation.
mutation that put my chances of
Life
breast
is a
cancer
genetic
at
mutation in
84%.
general. If you
It
think
was
about
the same
it.
mutation that my mom had, compelling her to get a preventative double mastectomy, removing her breast tissue, but protecting her from a disease that has taken far too many of our mothers, our sisters, our friends. In my family, 8 women alone were diagnosed with breast cancer, several in their young 20s. I now faced the same prospect. For nearly a decade, I was routinely at Moffitt Cancer Center, getting MRIs, ultrasounds, and necessary surveillance. During these visits, I crossed paths with brave women battling cancer and fighting through chemotherapy. They were a testament to American strength. They are American heroes. On May 1st, 2018, I followed in my mother's footsteps, choosing to get a preventative mastectomy. I was scared. The night before, I fought back tears as I prepared to lose a piece of myself forever. But the next day, with my mom, dad, husband, and Jesus Christ by my side,
Jesus Christ,
I underwent a mastectomy, almost eliminating my chance of breast cancer, a decision I now celebrate. Breast reconstruction has advanced remarkably. While it is an individual's decision,
Having technical difficulties over there.
surgery that left me virtually unchanged. But more important than physical results, I developed a strength and a confidence that I carry with me. During one of my most difficult times, I expected to have the support of my family, but I had more support than I knew. As I came out of anesthesia, one of the first calls I received was from Ivanka Trump. As I recovered, my phone rang again. It was President Trump calling to check on me. I was blown away. Here was the leader of the free world caring about my circumstance. At the time, I had only met President Trump on a few occasions. But now I know him well, and I can tell you that this president stands by Americans with pre-existing conditions. In fact, President Trump called me this morning. I spoke with him several times today, and he told me how proud he was of me for sharing this story. The same way President Trump has supported me, he supports you. I see it every day. I've heard him say the hardest part of his job is writing to loved ones of fallen soldiers. I've seen him offer heartfelt outreach to grieving parents who lost their children to crime in the streets.
I mean, she's telling the truth there.
Who lost their jobs.
He does do a lot of phone calls when something like that happens. He did it even in the Chopped, where father lost his son, Lorenzo, to a shooting within BLM's little watch and responsibility, but no one took the blame.
And
Jenny Durkin ignored it. Trump called the father while he was grieving.
When I look into my baby's eyes, I see a new life, a miracle for which I have a solemn responsibility to protect. That means protecting America's future, a future President Trump will fight for, where our neighborhoods are protected, where life is sacred, where God is cherished, not taken out of our schools, removed from our pledge, and erased from our history. I want my daughter to grow up in President Donald J. Trump's America. Choosing to have a preventative mastectomy was the hardest decision I ever had to make. But supporting President Trump, who will protect my daughter and our children's future, was the easiest.
Good evening. I'm Karen Pence. My husband is Vice President Mike Pence. 100 years ago today, the 19th Amendment was adopted into the United States Constitution.
Of all people, Pence is talking about
women
this.
The right to vote. Because of heroes like Susan B. Anthony and Lucy Stone, women today, like our daughters, Audrey and Charlotte, and future generations, will have their voices heard and their votes count. The women's suffrage movement was the gateway that led to women having the opportunities to achieve monumental milestones and accomplish significant achievements in both civic and governmental roles. This evening, we look at heroes in our land. As Second Lady of the United States for the past 3.5 years, I have had the honor of meeting many heroes across this great country. The Pences are a military family. Our son Michael serves in the United States Marines, and our son-in-law Henry serves in the U.S. Navy. And one of my key initiatives is to elevate and encourage military spouses. These men and women, like our daughter Charlotte and our daughter-in-law Sarah, are the home front heroes. I have been privileged to hear so many stories of selfless support, volunteer spirit, and great contributions to the armed forces and our communities. You know, military spouses may experience frequent moves and job changes, periods of being a single parent while their loved one is deployed, all while exhibiting pride, strength, and determination, and being a part of something bigger than themselves. To all of the military spouses, thank you. President Trump and Vice President Pence have been supporting our United States Armed Forces, including our military families, on a significant scale. While traveling throughout our nation to educate military spouses about policy solutions that President Trump has promoted involving real, tangible progress in military spouse employment, I have been inspired to meet heroes like Lisa Bradley and Cameron Cruz. These military spouses decided to start their own business, R Riveter, named after the Rosie the Riveter campaign used to recruit women workers during World War II. Our riveter makes beautiful handbags designed and manufactured exclusively by military spouses. And many of those spouses live all over the country. They prepare and send their section of the bags to the company located in North Carolina, where the final product is assembled. Military spouse hero Jalon Hall Johnson in Billings, Montana, is a culinary artist who had dreamed of starting her own restaurant. Working with the Small Business Administration's Development Center,
Yeah, this is getting me aggravated.
The Sassy Biscuit.
What,
And she just
Pence,
opened a second
lady,
restaurant in
second
Dover,
lady,
New Hampshire.
whatever Pence.
No, it's not her. It's the stuff she's referencing, like recently in Kenosha. I think it was either Kenosha or in Portland. One of the most recent days with the riots, small family-owned business. They supported BLM and everything else, did nothing wrong. Held the business for several years. It was family-owned by, in fact, for at least one generation to two. Completely gets burned down and robbed. And they got no insurance or anything.
Trauma from his service in the Marines.
The Democrats or anyone is not even doing anything to make up the difference.
Meet with the art therapist at Walter Reed Medical Center. Chris credits art
definitely got my vote just for thinking about it.
And Chris went on to establish a glass blowing workshop to help other vets. Many of our veteran heroes struggle as they transition back into civilian life, and sometimes the stress is too difficult to manage alone. A few weeks ago, I had the honor of speaking with some amazing Americans who answer the Veterans Crisis Line. One in particular, Sydney Morgan, especially impacted me. A veteran herself, Sydney said it is the highest honor of her life until they physically walk into a clinic to receive help they deserve, and she can pass their hand to someone ready to help. It's difficult times. We've all seen so many examples of everyday Americans reaching out a hand to those in need, those who, in humility, have considered others more important than themselves. We've seen healthcare workers, teachers, first responders, mental health providers, law enforcement officers, grocery and delivery workers, and farmers, and so many others. Heroes all. 100 years ago, women secured the right to vote. So let's vote, America. Let's honor our heroes. Let's re-elect President Trump and Vice President Pence for 4 more years. God bless our heroes, and God bless the United States of America.
We hold these truths to be self-evident.
I won't deny it's ironic to me and kind of awkward feeling knowing that before I would usually get this very cheesed out by this entire thing.
I mean, it is kind of cheesy, to be honest. This night is kind of, I don't know. This night isn't as good as last night or the night before. Oh God.
Well, no. I'm saying only, like, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I normally am.
Years ago, courageous warriors helped women secure the right to vote. This has been a victory worth celebrating, but also a reminder that our democracy is young and fragile. A woman in a leadership role can still seem novel. Not so for President Trump. For decades, he has elevated women to senior positions in business and in government. He confides in and consults us, respects our opinions, and insists that we are on equal footing with the men. President Trump helped me shatter a barrier in the world of politics by empowering me to manage his campaign to its successful conclusion. With the help of millions of Americans, our team defied the critics, the naysayers, the conventional wisdom, and we won. For many of us, women's empowerment is not a slogan. It comes not from strangers on social media or sanitized language in a corporate handbook. It comes from the everyday heroes who nurture us, who shape us, and who believe in us. I was raised in a household of all women. They were self-reliant and resilient. Their lives were not easy. They never complained. Money was tight, but we had an abundance of what mattered most: family, faith, and freedom. I learned that in America, limited means does not make for limited dreams. The promise
That's actually a nice comment.
belongs to us all. This
I
is a
agree.
land of inventors and innovators, of entrepreneurs and educators, of pioneers and parents, each contributing to the success and the future of a great nation and her people. These everyday heroes have a champion in President Trump. The teacher who took extra time to help students adjust to months of virtual learning. The nurse who finished a 12-hour COVID shift and then took a brief break only to change her mask, gown, and gloves to do it all over again. The small business owner striving to reopen after the lockdown was lifted, and then again after her store was vandalized and looted. The single mom,
Yeah, okay, I think
two
she's
commutes, who 10
she could be a bit more
years after
succinct.
that empty promise
Well, no,
has
it's
helped
only because she's talking about stuff that I've been reading into.
President
Every
Trump
time she mentions the riots and the harmed businesses and everything.
provided them with dignity, opportunity.
Everything else is a little cheesy, but
yeah,
I have seen
when I actually know about what she's talking about, especially that, it's kind of hard to dislike it.
Child who has lost a parent who lost a child, a worker who lost his job, an adolescent who lost her way to drugs. Don't lose hope, he has told them, assuring them that they are not alone and that they matter. There always will be people who have far more than us. Our responsibility is to focus on those who have far less than us. President Trump has done precisely that in taking unprecedented action to combat this nation's drug crisis. He told me, "This is so important, Kellyanne. So many lives have been ruined by addiction and will never even know it because people are ashamed to reach out for help and they're not even sure who to turn to in their toughest hour." Rather than look the other way, President Trump stared directly at this drug crisis next door, and through landmark bipartisan legislation has helped secure historic investments in surveillance, interdiction, education, prevention, treatment, and recovery. We have a long way to go, but the political inertia that costs lives and the silence and the stigma that prevents people in need from coming forward is melting away. This is the man I know and the president we need for 4 more years. He picks the toughest
Doesn't her
fights
husband like hate Trump
and
or something?
tackles the most complex problems. He has stood by me.
Um,
will stand up for
I think
you.
she's got that must be a weird marriage because
In
her husband
honor
is
of
like
the
one of
women
Trump's
who
biggest
empowered
critics.
me, and for the future of the children we all cherish. And God bless you
I
all.
mean, it's hard for me to gauge it otherwise. I'm not quite sure. I'm only listening to the stuff, and whatever I can say I know is a fact or not, I'm either going to listen to it, and the stuff that I don't know about, I'll just listen and see what I can pick up on it.
A nun.
Good evening. I'm Sister Dee Dee Byrne. and I
Okay, this
belong
is
to
kind
the
of cringe,
community of the
honestly.
Little Workers and the
Like,
Sacred
I don't
Hearts
like
of
when
Jesus
like
and Mary.
religious leaders get political.
Last
That's like
4th
one
of
of my
July,
least
I was
favorite
honored
things.
to be one of the president's
I
guests.
agree, but like I said, it feels a little nice because I've been seeing different stuff. Like
It feels
during,
forced. I think it
Prayed
feels
while in
forced.
chapel,
This is
begging God to allow me to be
well,
a
keep in mind, I differ from you. I've been reading other stuff, like, for example, when a bunch of BLM people beat down a Christian because he was praying, but then a few weeks or days prior, they were doing the Muslim prayer.
is not a traditional route, if there is such a thing.
So it's kind of like,
As a medical school student at Georgetown University, I joined the Army to help pay for my tuition and ended up devoting 29 years to the military, serving as a doctor and a surgeon in places like Afghanistan and Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. After much prayer and contemplation, I entered my religious order in 2002, working to serve the poor and the sick in Haiti, Sudan, Kenya, Iraq, and in Washington, D.C. Humility is at the foundation of our order, which makes it very difficult to talk about myself. But I can speak about my experience working for those fleeing war-torn and impoverished countries all around the world. Those refugees all share a common experience. They have been all marginalized, viewed as insignificant, powerless, and voiceless. And while we tend to think of the marginalized as living beyond our borders, the truth is the largest marginalized group in the world can be found here in the United States. They are the unborn.
Oh, God.
As Christians, we first met Jesus as a stirring embryo in the womb of an unwed
I don't like
mother
this.
and saw him born 9 months later.
I'm not for like certain things like that, but like I said, I do understand sometimes you need to have a bit of a leeway, especially considering what kind of people will force pregnancy.
Fashionable. As followers of Christ, we are called to stand up for life against the politically correct or fashionable of today. We must fight against a legislative agenda that supports and even celebrates destroying life in the womb. Keep in mind, the laws we create define how we see our humanity. And we must ask ourselves, what are we saying when we go into a womb and snuff out an innocent, powerless, voiceless life?
See, I wouldn't mind it if she got into some common stuff, but I get what she's saying to an extent.
Yeah, this just seems like virtue signaling. No, this is definitely trying to target the Catholic vote right
I am saying it because I'm not just pro-life, I'm pro-eternal life, and I want all of us to end up in heaven together someday. Which brings me to why
the only thing that's making it decent
Donald Trump
is that it's not someone that really matters.
This nation has
like it's just someone they have on.
Defending life at all stages. His belief in the sanctity of life transcends politics. President Trump will stand up against Biden Harris, who are the most anti-life presidential ticket ever, even supporting the horrors of late-term abortion and infanticide.
Now, see that's true, and I
President Trump has earned the support of America,
especially when I read the article where they're like saying we'll make the baby comfortable, and then if the mother wants.
You find us here with our weapon of choice, the rosary. So thank you, Mr. President. We are all praying for you.
I'm Lou Holtz. Many of you might know me as Coach Holtz, or maybe that football guy.
Oh, God.
He won me over just for that.
I'm Larry Holtz. And deserves to be reelected as our president. First, I want you to know that I grew up in a one-bedroom house.
So far, he has the best character.
Oh, totally.
But the lessons my parents taught me were priceless. They taught me that life is about making
Life
choices.
is a box of chocolates.
Wherever you are,
you never know
good or
what
bad,
you're gonna get.
Don't blame anyone else.
And you got that from the old guy.
You can overcome any obstacles, and always remember that in this great country of ours, anyone can amount to something special. I live by those principles of hard work.
You know, it's messed up that his speech is a little messed up, but he still talks more coherent than Biden.
But there are people today.
I'd say they're about on the same level, honestly.
I don't know, man. I think he understands where he's around.
Honestly, I think Biden and Trump are about the same place mentally, but the only difference is that they give Trump Adderall.
They don't have pride in our country.
It makes
and
it
because
makes
they
it
no
look good.
longer
Yeah.
ask, what can I do for my country?
Yeah, maybe.
Only
But
what the country
I don't
should
know. I'm still looking at the black comment he made a few weeks ago.
Oh, God, yeah. That was...
When I was in office,
And then when he challenged that one guy that criticized him at one of the rallies, and he said, "I'll do push-ups. I guarantee I do more push-ups than you." I was like, "Wait, what?"
That was yeah.
And the opportunity it has provided for so many millions. America remains a land of opportunity, no matter what the other side says or believes. You know, there's a statue out at Notre Dame. I guess they needed a place for the pigeons to land. But if you look, you will see these three words there: trust, commitment, and love. All my life, I've made my choices based on these three words. I use these three rules to make choices about everything. My beloved wife of 59 years, athletes I coached.
I wish I'll have a beloved wife of 59 years one day.
Even President Trump. I ask myself,
I mean, if you get that.
One,
hopefully,
can I trust them? When a leader tells you something.
Currently, from how things have been going in blue states, so you may get a person that identifies as a wife, but not be your wife.
He means what he says.
Oh, that was dumb. It's like, we need to trust all of our leaders. He said something like that. I'm like, yeah, no. I naturally distrust.
Is because nobody.
I think that's where we differ. I tend to lean more libertarian.
President Trump. The Biden
You tend to lean more what?
I tend to lean a little more libertarian in my views of the government.
They and other politicians.
I am totally for liberal rights, but not for the extremes that's been going on and been expressed, especially when they get twisted and warped.
Well, I said libertarian.
The second question
I'm just saying in general. I'm not saying like it has a correction or anything. I'm just saying like what my views are.
President Trump always finds a way to get something done. If you want to do something bad enough, you will find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse.
Well, wait, what's your job with the LIA again?
Are a lot easier to find.
Currently, that's getting moved around a bit, but basically research. That's why I know what I know.
President Trump is committed.
And have as many documents as I need to the point where now I need to get a laptop because I'm running out of storage on my phone.
They care about others. To me, this is very.
Luckily, I got a big storage, 128 gigs rocks.
Prison reform, advocating for school choice and welfare reform. And he wants Americans from all walks of life to have the opportunity to succeed and live.
To succeed.
Trump loved our
it's
country.
horrible. That's what I laugh at.
Trust, commitment, and love. In President Trump, we have a president we can trust, who works hard at making America greater and who genuinely cares about people.
See, the thing that I'm not liking out of all of this,
I can't say yes.
I'm afraid that the two-party system may vanish if this keeps up. I don't think that we should only have Republicans and only have Democrats speaking, and that we shouldn't have a massive majority of either or. I love how what we had in the 90s, where we had a very good balanced mixture.
Up in 2016 to run for president.
But I feel like that might go away after how bad it's been since 2019 to now.
I encourage everyone who loves this country, who loves America, to show up in November for President Trump. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michael McHale, but my friends call me Mike. I'm a 30-year active duty member of law enforcement in the state of Florida. I am also the president of the National Association of Police Organizations, NAPO. Our organization recently endorsed Donald Trump for re-election as President of the United States. Our endorsement recognized strong support for the men and women on the front lines, particularly during these challenging times. We value his support of aggressive federal prosecution of those who attack our police officers, his signing of the Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act, and his support for permanently authorizing funds to support 9/11 first responders and their families. Law enforcement officers across the nation take an oath to run towards danger when everyone else is running away. They do so willingly to protect our families and communities. I'm proud that the overwhelming majority of American police officers are the best and put their lives on the line without hesitation. And good officers need to know their elected leaders and the department brass have their backs. Unfortunately, chaos results when failed officials in cities like Portland, Minneapolis, Chicago, and New York make the conscious decision not to support law enforcement.
Yeah, that.
Looting and rioting occur unabated.
The violence and bloodshed we are seeing in these and other cities isn't happening by chance. It's the direct result of refusing to allow.
The only thing I hate about this is I can't argue anything against that.
Joe Biden has turned his candidacy over to the far left, anti-law enforcement radicals. And as a senator, Kamala Harris pushed to further restrict police, cut their troops, and make our American
yeah, no, that's
communities
BS.
and
Kamala
streets
Harris is like
even more dangerous
super
than they
pro
already
cop. Like she is a fucking
Conversely,
cop.
She is, but at the same time, she's still not stopping it.
No, she's not pro BLM. I think it's just hilarious when she's trying to like do that.
give officers
I know, but that's my point. Like, I'm pretty sure if she gets into office, if she ever does, hopefully never, she'll totally be turning a 180. But right now, she's just faking it, and that's why I'm saying I can't argue about what he's saying.
pro law enforcement president
She's a poser, and Biden's a cuck.
or the most radical anti-police ticket in history. We invite those who value the safety of their family and loved ones to join the hundreds of thousands of members of the National Association of Police Organizations and support the re-election of President Donald J. Trump. Thank you, and God bless America.
Oy vey. I really hate how I can't argue anything against that. Like, it sucks how bad it's gotten.
I'm Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, and I am honored to represent New York's 21st Congressional District, the cradle of the American Revolution. It's where almost 250 years ago, brave patriots fought in the battles of Saratoga to turn the tide of the Revolutionary War. It's where 40 years ago in Lake Placid, a team of amateur hockey players out-hustled, out-skated, and defeated the Soviet Union, stunning the world and giving us the unforgettable Miracle on Ice. And today, it's home to Fort Drum and the historic 10th Mountain Division, the most deployed unit in the U.S. Army since 9/11, where I saw firsthand President Trump graciously thank and honor our men and women in uniform and sign the largest pay raise for our troops in a decade. Since our nation's founding, generation after generation of everyday Americans served and sacrificed to preserve and strengthen the American dream, the vision of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the idea that if you work hard and dream big, you can achieve anything you imagine. I believe in the American dream because I've lived it. Like millions of Americans, I grew up in a small business family where I learned the values of hard work and determination. I was the first person in my immediate family to graduate from college, ran for Congress to serve upstate New York, and am proudly the youngest Republican woman elected to Congress in history. I am honored to support President Trump for re-election because I know that he is the only candidate who will stand up for hardworking families and protect the American dream for future generations. Since his first day in office, President Trump has fought tirelessly to deliver results for all Americans, despite the Democrats' baseless and illegal impeachment sham and the media's endless obsession with it. I was proud to lead the effort standing up for the Constitution, President Trump, and most importantly, the American people. This attack was not just on the president. It was an attack on you, your voice, and your vote. But the American people were not swayed by these partisan attacks. Our support for President Trump is stronger than ever before. We know what's at stake in this historic
polls aren't showing that, but
Americans from all walks of life.
I mean, at this point, I don't believe the polls.
It's why more Republican women than ever are running for office this year. We understand that this election is a choice between the far-left Democratic socialist agenda versus protecting and preserving the American dream. President Trump is working to safely reopen our Main Street economy. He understands that the engine of our country is fueled by the ingenuity and determination of American workers, entrepreneurs, and small businesses. Joe Biden wants to keep them locked up in the basement and crush them with $4 trillion.
I don't think Biden wants anything. I think it's his handlers are telling him to do stuff. Biden, 20 years ago, Biden would not have supported the lockdown. But I don't think he actually would. I think it's just the people who are
and the Constitution.
Yeah.
I believe in the
I don't know.
wisdom
I mean, Biden seems like a nice guy and all, but
to
he's just
elect
too
the
old.
only candidate who is capable of
I don't know, man. I mean, put it this way. My last straw with him was the other day when I found out that Richard Spencer now endorses him. Now, I'm happy that he, yes, Richard Spencer came out, says he's voting for Trump. Not Trump, Biden. And Biden decides to denounce him publicly, which I was happy about, but here's the thing I don't like. He doesn't denounce Bob Avakian, who has been promoting the riots, who is a full-blown communist, but he will totally denounce a white supremacist. Why not denounce them both?
I'm Madison Cawthorn.
The only reason why I see it as is because Bob Avakian supports BLM, he supports BAM, Antifa, and he's a big little social little guy when it comes down to them.
At 18 years old, I was in a horrific car accident that's left me paralyzed.
Kind of easy to sit there and denounce Biden for that just alone.
My hopes and dreams were seemingly destroyed. I was given a 1% chance of surviving. But thanks to the power of prayer, a very loving community, and many skilled doctors.
Thanks to the power of prayer.
It took me over a year to recover.
It's comments like those that are
outing in a wheelchair was to a professional baseball game. You know, before my accident, I was 6'3". I stood out in the crowd. But as I wheeled through the stadium, I felt invisible. At 20, I thought about giving up. However, I knew I could still make a difference. You know, my accident has given me new eyes to see and new ears to hear. God protected my mind and my ability to speak. So I say to people who feel forgotten, ignored, and invisible, I see you. I hear you. At 20, I made a choice. In 2020, our country has a choice. We can give up on the American idea, or we can work together to make our imperfect union more perfect. I choose to fight for the future, to seize the high ground and retake the shining city on a hill. While the radical left wants to dismantle, defund, and destroy, Republicans, under President Trump's leadership, want to rebuild, restore, and renew. I just turned 25. When I'm elected this November, I'll be the youngest member of Congress in over 200 years. And if you don't think young people can change the world, then you just don't know American history. George Washington was 21 when he received his first military commission. Abe Lincoln, 22 when he first ran for office. And my personal favorite, James Madison, was just 25 years old when he signed the Declaration of Independence.
Wasn't aware it was that
In times of peril, young people have stepped up and saved this country, abroad and at home. We held the line, scaled the cliffs, crossed oceans, liberated camps, and cracked codes. Yet today, political forces want to usher in the digital dark ages, a time of information without wisdom and tribalism without truth.
See, if it wasn't for the book burnings, I would deny that, but yeah, it's not propaganda if it's true.
MLK's dream is our dream. For all Americans to be judged solely on their character. Millions of people risk their lives.
Sure, saying the right things.
Because they believe in the dream of
But he's also saying it from the side that hasn't done the stuff that the left has been doing.
As we, the party of freedom, double down on ensuring the American
Again, book burnings have been recent.
We are committed to building a new town square. It welcomes all ideas and all people. Here we will have freedom of speech, not freedom from speech. To liberals.
Oh my Lord, I hate how honest this is and truthful.
Other ideas and let the best ones prevail.
I hate how I can't support any Democrats right now other than the ones that are no longer even running. Oh Lordy.
Jared Polis is pretty good. He's governor of Colorado. Only Democrat who was in the House of Liberty Caucus when he was in Congress.
You can kneel before
Don't get me
God.
wrong. I know there are a few Democrats that are decent, but just like him, I don't know them because they're not really in the front and center, unlike AOC, Biden, Kamala, and so on. The ones that I'm hearing about that are notorious
Americans who love our country.
are the ones that we sadly get to see have influence.
Be a radical for liberty.
It shouldn't be that way, but it is.
Our republic, for which I stand, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all.
See, I used to hate hearing that line.
He forgot indivisible.
I know he did, but I used to hate that line, and now I'm loving it just because of the BS I've been reading.
They make it look like it's at the Lincoln Memorial. That's what's great. I think it's hilarious.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I hope they emancipate the country from the BLM Antifa and more. Especially after watching Kenosha's riots yesterday.
He kind of looks like Malcolm X.
And father. I'm also a lifelong Democrat.
Hopefully he doesn't resemble him personally.
Let me be clear.
Dude, what are you talking about? Malcolm X was like 10 times better than MLK. Especially his talk of property. Like, he was very pro-property rights.
A servant to the people.
Yeah, but wasn't he also for big riots and all that? That's what I used to hear a lot about.
When he was younger, and no, he was for rioting, and he was not for breaking private property. He was going. He was for destroying public property, which is fine, I guess. If they're like actually being dicks. So I don't know. I like Malcolm X because he was.
I remember my dad's bravery.
He wasn't really left or right or anything.
KKK rally in my town.
Watch some interviews and read his biography.
My father taught me to back down from no one.
I might, but I mean, when I hear that he was okay for destroying public property, and I'm seeing what people, when they reference him now, have been doing, kind of hard to have a nice first impression.
The left barely mention Malcolm X. It's usually, I've noticed it's mostly libertarians who are like, who stand Malcolm X.
Of our innocent children.
I've been reading about how some have been actually pointing out that just like Malcolm X, we need to riot and all this other stuff in order to.
Was like a hardcore capitalist.
Just tell everyone that all.
Again, I'm going off of what people have been referencing. Keep in mind the left has been cherry picking lines and more, so it's kind of.
I mean, not that the right doesn't either, but like right now the left are doing.
So many adults have seemed to forget.
Again, like I said, I'm not denying when that stuff is, but keep in mind we're now at the point where what we're hearing right now is no longer just bias and propaganda. We're actually seeing, oh yeah, the left is doing this entirely. It's like, really? And it's like, oh crap, really?
We're going to allow Biden and Harris to deny our underserved black.
Hopefully 2021 goes different, but sadly this isn't the case right now.
President's campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again."
That's why I keep repeating, I hate how I can't argue against any of this stuff.
Collectively been responsible for locking up countless black men for nonviolent crimes.
Like Kamala.
Are you going to allow the media to lie to you by falsely claiming that he said there were very fine white supremacists in Charlottesville? He didn't say that. It's a lie. And ignore the.
He said there was good people on both sides.
That open on the website.
He didn't even say that, like, really. It was, a lot of people missed the context before. He said, like, a bunch of things before that. Like, if you read the whole thing.
We need black
like,
fathers
it makes sense.
with their
We don't necessarily agree with everything he said, but, like, he did not say what the media said that he said.
To be able to run inner city youth programs.
The thing that they had an issue was that he didn't go hard enough on the far right, but he went hard on the left, but he still denounced both of them. He didn't do anything else other than that. And then later on,
to be fair, like the far right was objectively in the wrong there. Like, you cannot. They were the best. They were the quote unquote. They were the worst ones there.
I'm forever grateful.
I don't know, man. Don't get me wrong. I don't like them at all. That's why I was saying earlier, I wish Biden would denounce both Bob Avakian and Richard Spencer, not just one.
Always told me.
Well, we're talking we're talking about the alt, like they actually killed somebody. I think that makes them in that instance subjectively worse. In that instance, at least.
I know, but when the riot started, I got to watch it from several different sources. You see, the Antifa were the ones that started.
First, black men and women in Congress.
Well, I'm just saying, as far as Charlottesville goes, Antifa and all them were the ones that started that entire thing.
Yeah, I know. No, yeah, I know that. But then the moment that the white supremacists killed a lady with the car,
and give
That
unprecedented
automatic.
opportunities
It was
for
that
Black
made them
in America
so
to rise.
I agree, but at the same time, though,
it was that
Let
moment
this
that
election
basically
be a
destroyed
call
the alt-right movement,
for
and now
all
it's
God's people.
pretty much dead.
that I agree in. But now here's the difference that I'm also noticing too, where I completely will agree that was totally horrendous. That doesn't change the fact that now you got the left doing that more than once, and they've been nothing but giving the kids gloves.
And he will forgive our sins, and he will.
There's no way you can denounce that. At least Trump has been denouncing both sides. Biden hasn't said anything against BLM or Antifa. We have several different dead children right now. Parents are now losing their sons. People are literally getting arrested for stuff that they're doing in the name of BLM and literally hurting police officers who are who are actually protecting citizens. And the most that you hear from Biden and the left is, well, it's just peaceful protests.
Greetings. My name is Chen Guangcheng. Standing up to tyranny is not easy. I know.
I still want to do an accent right now,
When
but
I spoke out
I feel like I
against
might get canceled.
China's
20
one-child
years.
policy and other injustices,
I mean,
I was
do
prosecuted,
you?
beaten,
Keep in mind, that's the left.
under house arrest.
I wish it was untrue.
Party, the CCP. In April
Okay, this is good,
2005,
actually. Okay, talking about China.
2012, I escaped and was given shelter in the American embassy in Beijing. I'm forever grateful to the American people for welcoming me and my family to the United States, where we are now free. The CCP is an enemy of humanity. It is terrorizing its own people, and it is threatening the well-being of the world. In China, expressing beliefs or ideas not approved by the CCP, religion, democracy, human rights can lead to prison. The nation lives under mass surveillance and censorship. The US must use its values of freedom, democracy, and the rule of law to gather a coalition of other democracies to stop CCP's aggression. President Trump had led on this, and we need the other countries to join him in this fight, a fight for our future. Standing up to fight unfairness isn't easy, I know. So does President Trump, but he has shown the courage to wage that fight. We need to support
I'm happy that I talked to enough foreigners that I can actually understand his accent.
President Trump for the sake of the world. Thank you.
I'm Congressman Lee Zeldin. Tonight, as we celebrate America as a land of heroes, I'm here at a VFW Post of Heroes in West Hampton Beach, New York. I've seen amazing Americans in action, raised in a law enforcement family, deployed to Iraq as an 82nd Airborne paratrooper, and serving today in the Army Reserve. My generation of 9/11 veterans has huge shoes to fill, following our greatest generation that fought tyranny and saved the world. All over our country, everyday heroes serve and sacrifice for the greater good. Farmers, truckers, craftsmen, these heroes keep America running, and President Trump fights for them every day. This year, we've especially relied on one particular group of heroes.
Is it me, or does he look like a more healthy version of Mark Zuckerberg?
I was thinking the same thing.
I was like looking at him, and I was like, is that how Mark would look, not as a lizard person?
Had a stroke and underwent brain surgery. leaving a third of the left side of her brain a hole. Her doctors didn't believe Michaela would survive, fearing dire permanent consequences even if she did. Through the miracles of modern medicine, power of prayer, and her will to live, my daughters are now starting high school and doing great, with no long-term effects from those frightful months in the NICU. So when I learned my county's PPE stockpile was depleted, I immediately thought of those healthcare workers who saved my baby girls. Jared Kushner and I were on the phone late into that Saturday night. The very next day, President Trump announced he was sending us 200,000 N95 masks. He actually delivered almost 400,000. That number quickly grew to 1.2 million masks, gowns, and more. The president sent thousands of ventilators to New York. He deployed the USS Comfort and converted the Javits Center to a field hospital. His administration authorized our lab testing requests at blinding speed. During a once-in-a-century pandemic, an unforeseeable crisis sent to us from a faraway land, the president's effort for New York was phenomenal. For our nation to emerge even stronger, more prosperous, freer, and more secure than ever. To make our country greater than ever before, we must re-elect President Trump. We are the land of the free because of the brave. And we are the land of
You're the land of
opportunity
the free because of
we
the
have a
brave.
president who wants to empower the best of who we are to be the best of what we can be. There's never been a nation greater than ours. Never a people more resilient than ours. And never a future for America more promising than ours right now. Keeping America great is up to us, and losing is not an option.
And I'm very proud to have President Trump in office here, because he's the best we've ever had.
It really just sucks so hard knowing how, before you could just say that just exaggerating, but it's actually true right now.
Since Trump has taken over. You had to fight 15 years for benefits, but once he came into office, you had like 90 days. You turned your paperwork in, at least you had some kind of answer.
I waited months for a signature on a piece of paper to get a prosthetic leg fixed. And now it's a lot better turnaround.
But before, 5-year waiting process to appeal. So how long do we have to wait for benefits?
I waited 20 years to file. Rapidly was approved for medical, and then turned right around and got disability. I was thinking it was going to be several years worth of waiting to hear. He's accomplished a lot in 3.5 years. And it helps the American people, and he has done a lot for veterans, for the middle class.
I chose to serve my country. If I could do it, I would do it all over again, especially for this president. I mean, he's the kind of president you'd run.
Dude, what if they like bring out the Duck Dynasty guy?
Through many presidents, but this one is the best president we've ever had and ever will have.
I mean, at this point, I don't know. Even as the cheesiest parts, I'm not gonna lie, I like it in contrast to what I've been reading. One of the things a lot of the people that follow me say is I'm knee deep in the worst of whatever I look into, so maybe that's why this is like so comforting to watch.
I was raised on a small family
But
farm here in Iowa.
doesn't make what I see any better. It just makes this a little easier to appreciate.
My way through college, then dedicated my life to serving my country as a
As a
local
farmer.
official, a battalion commander in the military, and as a U.S. Senator. Service. It's more than a word to me.
Service guarantees
It's a mission,
citizenship. Would you like
a
to
way
know
of
more?
life. It's what brought me to Cedar Rapids, Iowa in 2008 when I was in the National Guard. We saw historic floods that swept through the communities. We lent a helping hand to our fellow Iowans who were literally underwater. We thought we had seen the worst, but 12 years later, these same communities have faced an even more devastating disaster, the recent derecho storm. If you don't live in Iowa, you may not have heard much about it at first. While reporters here in the state were in the trenches covering the equivalent of a Category 2 hurricane, Most of the national media look the other way. To them, Iowa is still just flyover country.
Yeah, sadly, that's probably true.
It is, yeah.
About 1/3 of our crops here were damaged. In some cases, these storms wiped out a
Everyone still treats everything like kid gloves, and unless they can get like a massive propaganda spin on it, it's really hard for them.
from their neighbors. Our farmers live every day with that sense of service, the stewards of the land, the ones who feed and fuel the world. President Trump
I
quickly
miss the days where people can look forward to good news. Now it's like, let's find the bad news instead.
And of course,
Oh yeah, they
when
make more money
President
that
Trump
way.
came to Cedar Rapids, the national
I get it if you want excitement, but
for years,
like if I watch,
closely with
It's
the
just
president for
entertainment. That's
farmers
all
in
it is. The
Iowa
news these
and
days.
across the country.
It's like our
We scrapped
civilization's
Obama and
equivalent
Biden's
of the
punishing waters of the United
gladiator
States
games, like
rule,
bread and
which
circuses.
would have regulated
It's like,
about
yeah.
97%
yeah,
of
but at the same time though,
in
it's,
some cases,
I don't know, I probably can't relate,
it would have been a nightmare for
but I
farmers.
always like it better when I read good news. Like when I read about how in Detroit they had a peaceful protest and it was actually a peaceful protest.
Agreement.
I
And
was enjoying it. I still cite the protest because I love how peaceful and calm and collective.
I'm actually
and-
going to turn, since we started to talk a little over it, I'm going to put on captions for the
this
audience.
is something the
And
Obama
by all
Biden
means.
administration failed to do in 8 years. In fact, I can't recall an administration more hostile to farmers than Obama Biden, unless you count the Biden.
Obama Biden.
That is actually
confused.
true. That is
party
actually
of Joe
true.
Biden is
He wasn't-
pushing this
yeah.
so-called Green New Deal.
No, Biden.
Given
Okay, no, I'm
power,
fact checking.
They
I'm
would
going to fact check
essentially
that real quick
ban
on the
animal
spot.
agriculture
Biden does not support the
and
Green New Deal.
eliminate gas-powered
Whether you like the
cars.
Green New Deal or
It would
not, which
destroy the
I'm not a huge fan
agriculture
of.
industry.
I hate it.
Here in
Yeah,
Iowa,
it's.
but throughout the country.
I mean, I'm for like
When the pandemic hit,
like
President Trump heard us in
alternative
our call
forms of
for
energy,
assistance
specifically
for our
nuclear and
farmers.
thorium and that
Knowing
stuff.
we have an
Yeah, I am too.
You can't just
House is
like
important.
abolish fossil fuels
Folks,
just
this
like that.
election is a choice.
I know. And that's what they wanted to do between renovating entire businesses and households, go into public housing. It was ridiculous.
Under a Trump
Just
And then
no,
paying people not to work.
No, it's mostly because it's a
Biden-Harris
logistical
path,
nightmare.
paved
I
by
mean, I get
liberal
like
coastal
why they
elites
want to
and
do it.
radical
Like, I mean,
environmentalists.
ideally,
An America where farmers are punished.
it sounds like a
jobs
good
are
idea, but when you
destroyed,
look, when
and
you get down into the
taxes
weeds,
crush the middle
and you
class.
actually see how they
That is
implement
our
it,
choice.
it's
And it's
yeah,
clear.
not that great.
Thank you.
I can do. We can do an entire stream on that.
And the best part is them trying to lie. It was like Bill Clinton style. It was like, no, we don't pay people if they don't work. It's right in the paperwork. Oh, well, we forgot that.
To be sold on an auction block. By the grace of God and the courage of slaves who believed in freedom, Silas escaped through the Underground Railroad and settled in the great state of Texas. He went on to become a successful entrepreneur. Church.
Go get some water, man.
And purchased 102 acres of farmland.
Maybe in a bit.
I'm here today, a candidate for Congress, because of my great-great-grandfather, Silas Burgess. I was raised in the South during the days of Jim Crow and the KKK. Even through the challenges of segregation, we were taught that anything is possible in America. When I was 22 years old, I thought all my dreams had come true when I was drafted by the New York Jets. 10 years later, with a Pro Bowl nod and a Super Bowl championship under my belt, I left the NFL to start a business. I thought I'd never fail, but years later I did, and I lost everything. As I moved my family of 6 into a 1-bedroom basement apartment in Brooklyn, New York, I had a choice to make: to feel sorry for myself or get to work. I worked as a chimney sweep during the day,
chimney
and a security guard at night. It was humbling to be recognized cleaning the chimney by someone who once cheered me.
Maybe it was in the
as a
50s or 60s, whenever.
But those hard days would pay off, and eventually I started
Probably.
rewarding career in the corporate world.
I collect calls.
To dream big, where second chances are at the core of our American DNA. We don't hear that same message from Nancy Pelosi's Congress, career politicians, elitists, and even a former bartender want us to believe it's impossible. They want us to believe that.
I mean, I won't take this away from her. That former bartender knows how to dance.
As patriots, we know better.
Still think it's charming, but that's all that she got.
March towards our cities while
I think she has a kind of
Congress
she's
promotes
kind of
the
pretty. I
same
think.
socialism that my father fought against World War
Well, I
II.
mean, that adds to the dance, but even then, it's like, eh.
I'm black if I don't vote for him. Now more than ever, we need leaders who stand by their principles. And
The worst, I think the funniest part during that time was that everyone complimented her dancing when she made that little video. And everyone said, "Oh, you're just jealous because she dances so good." It's like, yeah, we think she's
not even pay attention.
Mob mentality.
Oh, you didn't pay attention when people were saying that?
My
No, I ignore that stuff. It's just
during the Trump administration.
I thing is, I ignored it too, but it still came up on my feed.
because you're on Twitter and Twitter is trash.
Unprecedented prosperity.
Not even Twitter; it was all over, even on YouTube for a brief day or so. Like honestly, in between me looking up stuff, I've just seen people be like, "Oh yeah, the conservatives are saying she dances good. They're just jealous because she's such a good dancer." It's like that's why they're complimenting her.
My fellow Americans, specifically my Democrat and independent friends, it is now time.
Oh, Alkazei's here. Hey, Alkazei.
Partisan barriers.
Sorry I couldn't join earlier. I signed up for an event on campus.
And give our president 4 more years, and I promise you,
What's happened so far?
we will make you proud.
Cringe mostly.
Thank you.
Cringe, but good messages.
Of America.
Yeah,
and consistency.
At least
This is the Democrat from Georgia.
Well, this guy was actually okay, I thought, but Kellyanne Conway was pretty cringe.
Standing guard.
And then these are cringe too. These
Her and the nun.
Is the remains
yeah, the nun was the
nun
worst.
that spoke?
The nun was the worst.
a relic of time past.
But I definitely like that other guy.
It recalls a time when the spirit of liberty stirred in men of renown who stood in the gap against the most powerful force in the world. 27 hours, 1,000 men, low on ammunition, firing scrap metal. The battle raged, insurmountable odds. A darkness fell upon this new nation. In the midst of the fight,
Jeb Bush
heroes
came,
of Fort McHenry
rising from the sea with a
unmoved.
scepter in one hand and a sword in the
Oh
other.
my god, it's like that one scene in the Avatar. He just comes out of the water, goes ham.
No, I was thinking of
Torn
like
and battered,
Thomas
stood
Hobbes at the cover of Thomas Hobbes'
victoriously
Leviathan,
observing a
which is just like a
enemy
king
slowly
holding,
retreat
looking
the
over a
rising
city,
sun,
and he's holding a scepter and a sword.
Oh yeah.
of our nation.
How much of this is left?
Less than an hour.
The Earth and Star.
Okay.
Fort McHenry.
How many people did you have in here?
Oh, it was just been me and Michael.
Who having
Oh, okay.
stood and prevailed. It is why we
Oh, also, your upload of the stream last night, it wasn't the whole thing.
of freedom-loving Americans.
Yeah, it was.
When we hear
Yeah, but I'm not in there at any point.
the Star-Spangled Banner.
You are later on, I think.
Oh, okay.
I was listening to it earlier.
Good evening, America. I'm Lara Trump, daughter of Bob and Linda Unaska, sister to Kyle, mother to Luke and Carolina, and the daughter-in-law of our 45th president, Donald J. Trump.
Is this Eric's trophy wife?
I come to you simply.
Oh,
as
I think it is.
My life began like many in our country. I grew up in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. My parents were small business owners and worked hard to make sure that my brother and I had everything we needed, but not everything we wanted. My parents raised me to believe that in America, I could achieve anything with hard work and determination. That the opportunities available to me were limited only by the size of my ambition. That I should dream big, and I did. Those very dreams are what led me to New York City. I'd heard the adage, if I can make it there,
I can make it anywhere. Oh, God.
Just that.
That's what I
Never
dream
in
was.
a million years
So,
did I think that I would be
plus
on
1
this
point
stage
for
tonight.
quoting
And I
Frank
certainly never
Sinatra,
thought that I'd end
minus
up with
1
the last
point
name Trump.
for making it
My
sound
7th
super
grade
cringe.
English teacher, Mrs. B, used to tell us, believe none of what you hear, half of what you read, and only what you're there to witness firsthand. The meaning of those words never fully weighed on me until I met my husband and the Trump family. Any preconceived notion I had of this family disappeared immediately. They were warm and caring. They were hard workers.
You better be wearing a fucking mask, dude. Don't give me corona through the stream.
My own family.
Yeah. Oh,
I
did you hear
promise
the,
nothing.
you hear the Democrats? Like,
Walking
there's
the
some
halls of the
Democrats who
Trump
want people to wear
organization,
masks
I
when
saw
they're
the
like
same family
Skyping.
environment. I also saw the
Why?
executives who thrived there.
May have been a
after
meme
year.
or a joke or something,
Gender
but it
division.
looked real.
No, it's true.
The ability to get
My
the job
friend
done.
is actually being told that's what they want in her state.
In 2016, my father
Why would you wear?
me
Did they
to
give a
help
reason?
them win my cherished home state.
Just that they want it done.
Though I had no.
Ironically, she has COVID, but I don't see the point of her being in a Zoom meeting wearing a mask when she's resting at home. Whatever, I guess.
President Donald Trump appointed so many women to senior
What
level
happened if they gave her HCQ?
Secretary of the United Nations, Secretary of the Air Force, the first female CIA director, the first black female director of the Fish and Wildlife Service, and countless ambassadors, just to name a few.
Hey guys, we're against identity politics, but we're gonna play identity politics to own the libs.
Level since World War II. 4.3
They play it slightly
million
less, I
jobs have
think.
been created for women. In 2019 alone, women.
Not
I mean, to be fair,
but when they play identity politics, it's really
Female small
bad.
business ownership remains at an all-time high, and 600,000 women
which one is really bad?
poverty.
So Republicans don't play
President
identity
Trump took
politics
office.
as much as Democrats.
He
When
didn't do
Republicans
these
do
things
it,
to
it
gain a
is
vote or check
really
a box.
cringe. Like Candace
He did
Owens,
them
for instance.
because
Candace
they're the
Owens
right
might
things to
just be the
do.
worst person alive.
100
I think
years
she's
ago,
just a grifter, dude.
She is.
ratified, granting the
She,
right to
no, I
vote
think
to every
yeah.
American
I
woman.
mean, we can.
And since
I'm not going to go on about
incredible
Candace
strides
Owens right
have been
now,
made by
but
women in
I have no
America.
respect for that woman.
From Amelia Earhart to
I mean,
Rosa
me
Parks,
personally, I don't trust her, especially when she made that website that was basically an online doxing site.
Exactly.
Also, when she started going on about anti-vaxxer shit, dude.
driving alone
But
in my car.
overall, though, I do give her this. I loved how she stood up against Democrats when they ended up calling her out on stuff and started calling her racist and everything.
she was definitely. She definitely demonstrated in that.
and Democrat.
In that hearing that she does not understand history at all, but at the same time, she did.
America,
I did like that she stood up for herself, even though she has no idea what nationalism is.
Abraham Lincoln once famously said,
Imagine being a nationalist, LMAO.
Oh, I mean, I'm a civic nationalist, in like John Stuart Mill classical liberal sense.
While those words were spoken,
Imagine not being globalist.
Never have they been more relevant. Will we choose the right path and maintain the
I'm for
unique freedoms
globalization.
and
I think it's objectively good, but
that make this
that's
country the
another
greatest in the
story.
history of the world? Will we remain the beacon of hope for those around the world fighting oppression, communism, and tyranny? The choice is ours. I know the promise of America because I've lived it, not just as a member of the Trump family, but as a woman who knows what it's like to work in blue-collar jobs, to serve customers for tips, to aspire to rise. When I look at my son Luke and my daughter Carolina, I wonder, what sort of country will I be leaving for them?
I don't believe they've ever had sex.
In recent months,
wait, what?
I don't believe Laura and Eric have fucked.
No, I think that he's just raising other men's kids, right?
Yeah, I think so too.
I actually think that Barron might be the inbred son of Trump and Ivanka.
To keep our children safe in our neighborhoods and in their schools, to restore.
Like, I honestly, if I found that out, like if that it turns out that was the case, I would not be surprised.
You're just sitting in your living room, fucking called it.
Yeah, I've been saying that for years. I mean, I'm half joking, but then at the same time, it was actually true. I would not be surprised.
The law and order president, from our borders to our backyards. President Trump will keep America safe. President Trump will keep America prosperous. President Trump.
Don, have you seen those dumb ads where it's like, this is Joe Biden's America, when it's like a riot going on right now?
It's like, yeah, this is Trump's America.
I implore you, tune out the distorted news and biased commentary and hear it straight from someone who knows. I wasn't born a Trump. I'm from the South. I was raised a Carolina girl. I went to public schools and worked my way through a state university. My 7th grade English class was right. What I learned about our president is different than what you might have heard. That he loves his family, that he didn't need this job, that no one on earth works harder for the American people, that he's willing to fight for his beliefs and for the people in the country that he loves. He is a person of conviction. He is a fighter and will never stop fighting for America. He will uphold our values. He will preserve our families, and he will be a
upon the great American edict that our union will never be perfect until opportunity is equal for all, including and especially for women. Our 40th president.
She just blanked through her fucking teeth right now, dude.
Dreams of people.
Wait, how?
But everybody wants their.
She said Trump is a man of conviction. He has no convictions.
He has no principles. He just does like whatever the last person told him to do.
He just does whatever he wants, and then like his only true ideological conviction is that he's against free trade, which is
to my father.
Terrible. Yeah.
Honestly, imagine being
Thank
against
you for
free trade.
bravely leading this country. And
Jesus Christ, dude.
Continuing to fight.
Wait, free trade is what exactly?
For America.
It's when you don't have to pay for trade.
Of the hurricane.
You just get it for free. You just go to the store and they hand it to you.
International free
And may
markets.
God continue to
Basically,
bless this
tariffs.
incredible
When
country.
you have tariffs, and tariffs are taxes, and thereby tariffs are theft.
So wait,
And I guess
so
on top of that,
basically,
creating certain incentives to like buy American domestic products instead of international ones. They don't.
I mean,
actually,
I'd be fine with maybe like giving companies tax cuts to bring jobs to the U.S., but like no tariffs.
Since my beloved Jackie was taken from me.
so wait, so basically, it's where you no longer have to pay for anything, and that's it.
Yep.
Yeah, you still have you don't. The taxes you pay are not because it's like imported or anything.
Like Biden is to the right of Trump on economics.
Yeah, he is.
The other day.
He wants to join the TPP.
TPP had flaws, but like if they worked out some of the rough edges, it would have been. I think it would have been a better way.
If they would have allowed governments to sue corporations.
It would have been a better. It would have been a better way to deal with China.
I noticed
whatever
the bullet hole in
fucking
Jackie's
trade war.
window.
Oh my god, dude! Yeah. I mean, even with like the sketchy stuff about like corporations being able to sue governments for like bullshit, I still think it's overall a good trade policy.
Yeah, they should work out the rough edges.
Very wrong.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to get paid free money and everything else, but I don't think we're in a society or civilization capable of doing that. Otherwise, the Green New Deal would be accessible.
What are you talking about?
Well, you guys said isn't free trade where you're just not paying for anything?
No, free trade is just where you don't pay tariffs on stuff, on like imported goods. And you don't create artificial barriers. I was joking when I said it's just when you get free trade from the store.
Well, that keep in mind, I'm asking you a legitimate question because I didn't know what the hell you guys were talking about. So I'm going to believe what you're telling me.
Yeah, Michael's not really an econ guy.
Driveway.
Oh.
8 months.
Okay.
Yeah, if you ask me about stuff I know, I'll be able to tell you left and right. But when I'm actually asking you, can you educate me? I'm expecting an education.
Oh, okay.
Michael is probably what would best be referred to as a conservative Democrat.
Legend in July of this year.
Who's a registered Republican.
The FBI took over Jackie's case.
Who's this guy speaking?
They arrested 4 people.
Where's he
The 5th
from?
Suspect killer was arrested in Texas.
Guessing by his accent, I think he's probably from New York City. Is what he sounds like.
With a long criminal record. He had been deported in September and had come back in October to terrorize our community. I am extremely grateful to President Trump and the FBI for their efforts to deliver justice for Jackie and all the other innocent victims of violent crime. I'm honored to support the president because he is supporting us. I know he will never stop fighting for justice, for law and order, for peace, security in our communities.
Who the fuck was that guy?
Greetings, my fellow Americans. I am Clarence Henderson.
Clarence
There have been
Henderson.
movements that have changed.
Clarence Henderson. Where's Clarence Henderson?
Among the most extraordinary was the civil rights movement. 60 years ago, segregation was legal and enforced. The simple act of sitting at a lunch counter could lead to physical harm, jail time, or worse. I know from personal experience.
See, I like how he has that mural behind him.
On February 2nd, 1960, I knew it was.
I don't know the first 2 guys in the front, and I can't recognize the 3rd guy in the back.
Day before,
Oh, never mind.
the color of their
I thought I
skin.
saw MLK there or something.
Knew it wasn't right. But when we went back the next day, I didn't know whether I was going to come out in a vertical or prone position, in handcuffs,
Wait, he was at the lunch counter sitting?
or even by sitting down to order a cup of coffee We challenged justice. We knew it was necessary.
Wait,
but we didn't know.
Is this seriously a guy who was at that lunch counter protest?
The KKK. We were cursed at and called all kinds of names.
But he answered my question.
And some of us were arrested, but it was worth it. Our actions inspired similar protests throughout the South against racial injustice. And in the end, segregation was abolished, and our country moved a step closer to true equality for all. That's what actual peaceful protest can accomplish. America isn't perfect. We're always improving.
What's this guy's name again?
The great thing about this country
Clarence
is that it's
something.
not where you come from, it's where you're going. I was born on what some would call the wrong side of the tracks. I don't even have a birth certificate.
Henderson.
I never attended an integrated school, and I'm the only one out of my immediate family who graduated from college and HBCU. I'm a military.
See, I love how this guy's competent.
And you know what else?
And it's still a diverse set of Republicans on this entire thing.
Donald Trump.
But all we get from the DNC and more is just some lacking crap, and people just saying, well, we still have these races.
It was a Republican Party that passed the 14th Amendment, giving black men...
Definitely quality over the quantity.
Republican Party that passed the 15th Amendment, giving black men the right to vote.
We freed the slaves, bro. Vote for us.
Americans, voters all over.
Dude, why do the Republicans still think saying we are the party of Lincoln, we freed the slaves, is just like a winning strategy to over minorities?
Joe Biden had the audacity to say, if you don't vote for him, you ain't black. Well, to that, I say...
That's right, bitch. He's going to take the melanin away from you.
Donald Trump is not a politician. He's a leader.
He is a politician, actually.
Officially, he is now, yeah.
Been one for 4 years, buddy.
Funding Trump
I don't know if you've...
priceless too. So a record number of jobs he created for the black community. And the
that is true.
Drove into our neighborhoods.
Very much so.
In opportunity zones. And so
I like the opportunity. I like the opportunity.
Criminal justice reform.
Even with the opportunity, though, unless it's false or has some kind of skepticism behind it, you can't really say it's a bad thing to point out.
Black lives. His policies show his heart. He has done more for black Americans in 4 years than Joe Biden has done in 50. Donald Trump.
I hate how I can't argue that.
To rise. A country embraces the spirit of the civil rights movement of the 60s. A place where people judge their character, their talents and abilities, not by the color of skin. This is the America I was fighting for 60 years ago. This is the America Donald Trump is fighting for today. Let's all join the fight for re-electing President Trump on November 3rd. Thank you.
Okay, who's this?
During the presidential primary debates 4 years ago, one outsider stood alone and said in public what most Americans thought in private.
John Kasich. John Kasich.
The war in Afghanistan and 12 years after the invasion of Iraq, where thousands of American troops had died and trillions in taxpayer dollars had been spent. And yet no candidate could bring themselves to admit that something had gone badly wrong with American foreign policy. That the American voter, the American...
Hot take, the Iraq war was a morally good war. We just fucked up real badly.
I disagree 100% with that.
Except for one, Donald Trump.
Okay.
He called America's endless wars what they were, a disaster. The media was shocked because Donald Trump was running as a Republican. And yet he said out loud what we all knew, that American foreign policy was failing to make Americans safer. After the end of the Cold War, Democrats and Republicans in Washington bought into the illusion that the whole world would start to resemble America. And so they started to pursue unlimited globalization.
Case.
into the World Trade
Globalization is
Organization.
good, but like
They
it's
engaged
impossible
in
to make the
nation
entire
building in
world like
Afghanistan
America.
and tried to
Yeah.
export democracy to it.
Yeah, exporting democracy, good.
With
I mean, Iraq.
and a global
The thing is,
agreement
they
in Paris.
democracy's foreign
But
to
they
them,
didn't
though. I
ground
mean, it's not
any
a
of it
part.
in
It's
the
not an
interests of
authentic
the
reflection
average American.
of their of the
decades,
Magian spirit.
Built a global system. American wages stagnated.
But again, that's a
Our
conversation for
great
another time.
cities and industries were hollowed out.
No, the thing is, countries have successfully implemented democracy to places where it was once foreign, like Japan.
Well, yeah, but that was more of a natural process. That was through more like trade and stuff and interaction, peaceful interaction. That's why I think globalization is good.
As U.S. ambassador
and
to Germany,
not
I had a front
militarism.
row seat to Donald Trump's
So face them
America
resent
First
us more.
foreign policy. I would tell American how President Trump negotiates on their behalf. I've watched President Trump charm the Chancellor of Germany while insisting that Germany pay its NATO obligations.
Is he talking about Merkel? I don't know what the hell she is.
Trump say to foreign leaders, I don't blame you for wanting America
Second
to
term
pay for your
Merkel
security.
is better than
I
first term
actually
Merkel.
respect you for
When was first term Merkel? Because the one I saw was shaming her entire nation, talking about we have to pay for our sins, even though a completely different generation is around.
That was first term Merkel. Yep, and then she was also like that's when she was for
priority is the American
bringing in
security. That's the job of all leaders.
like bringing in
put their people first.
like unlimited refugees and stuff, and then trying for multicultural policies. But then second term, she's like multiculturalism has failed Europe. I did something terrible.
Democrats to agree on
Well, I mean, to be fair, she was literally like there's a lot of issues that they were dealing with from her entire border plan and everything else, on top of her shaming her people for complaining about the issues they were dealing with too. I'm sorry.
And that was first term
deals that make America
like honestly, I feel bad for anyone that had to deal with her at any point from what I was watching and reading.
And so they nationalist. That tells you
I get it if she was talking to like World War II Germany and dealing with people that were like going for hardcore stuff.
This American president isn't
kind of hard otherwise.
Foreign policy on America's national interests. A return to the Biden way of thinking means America gives the radical terrorist regime in Tehran a plane load of cash in the middle of the night. President Trump also sent an aircraft in the middle of the night to deal with Iran. But that plane was on a different mission. An airstrike to take out the head of Iran's terror machine who plotted the deaths of Americans. But we also must be clear that when those who seek freedom take tremendous personal
Killing Qasem Soleimani was the right move.
Hong Kong, Tehran, or Minsk, there is no doubt who President Trump's administration supports. We will stand with the people who fight for their God-given freedoms.
I like how they just said we shouldn't be exporting democracy, but then they're like, "Hey, let's like support the opposition." And Lukashenko, I'm like, "Well,
wait, what I missed? What do you mean?"
8 years ago.
So they just said like American foreign policy of like exporting democracy was like a bad move, right? And he just said, "Oh, we're gonna stand with people who are gonna try to fight for their freedoms, like in Belarus." And I'm like, "Okay,
they had to
fucking pick one. You can't hold these two positions at the same time."
Yeah, you should ask yourself, why didn't he try that over the last 48 years? Today, the Democrats blame a global pandemic that started in China on President Trump. And they still blame Russia for Hillary Clinton's loss in 2016.
They kind of gave up on that. It's only a minority that does that anymore. Rachel Maddow.
I saw the Democrats' entire case for Russian collusion. And what I saw made me sick to my stomach. The Obama-Biden administration secretly launched a surveillance operation on the Trump campaign.
Do they actually have any fucking evidence of that?
Brave and
they're finding some actually, and they're waiting to finish up their investigation, but they've been finding a lot more from the start than anything that they did with the Russia thing with Trump.
Judges. Then they classified anything that
Shit smells fishy to me, though.
And after Donald
Well, put it this way, when they started finding and reporting everything publicly, Maddow, even though she was all talking about the Russiagate, she was like, I'm not even going to talk about this investigation, not even talking about it.
To undercut him even more. Former Vice President Joe Biden asked intelligence officials to uncover.
I just don't trust Trump's motivations for
Trump's
things.
incoming national security advisor.
Even so, if this is actually true, it says a lot more in contrast to what they said.
That's the Democrats.
Don't get me wrong, I distrust anybody easily if they make it easy for me to do so, but if you could still back up what you say, it doesn't matter if I trust you as far as I can throw you, I will still have to believe what you say in the end, if you prove it.
Always know exactly who is in charge.
An unbiased mind is always best.
You're in charge. Not lobbyists, not special interests, not warmongers or China sympathizers or globalization fanatics. With Donald Trump and Mike Pence in the White House, the boss is the American people.
Yeah, I'd say so.
President Trump rightly calls his
Globalization meaning what? Like we all go into like a giant utopia with the entire world?
No, that's globalism.
America
Globalization
does
is
not
free
advance
trade.
the interests of one group of Americans at the expense of another. It has no bias about red or blue, educated or not educated, urban or rural. America First is simply the belief that politicians should focus on the quality and dignity of every American, and that this duty is fulfilled by promoting the safety and wealth of the American people above all else. That's America First. That's the Trump doctrine. And that, my friends, is 4 more years.
It's just like an award show.
Well, I mean,
music and everything, it's funny.
Well, I mean, in all honesty, though, if you're going to live in America and you're believing in your country, why should you not?
It's still better than the DNC convention.
Those who defended.
I think the
But at the same time, though,
actually hot take.
National anthem. Here as the smoke of battle.
Like, I don't understand why people get so offended when an American says America first, especially if they're keeping to themselves and just focusing on America. I don't see the issue.
Not only for
Well, because you have a lot of people like fucking Nick Fuentes types use it to justify their ethno-nationalism.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing that. But when you actually have people that saying we just want to believe in our country and support our country without being an ethno-nationalist, there's no issue there. Doesn't matter if someone ruins it. That's when you bash that person individually, not the message.
My thing is simple.
Flag is sometimes
Well, also, it's an excuse to be an ISO cuck, which is major cringe.
fired upon.
An ISO cuck?
There are heroes
Yes.
throughout our history.
Isolationist.
Picked up those tattered strands.
I mean, if you want to go that route, but I mean, put it this way. It's no different from when you have like a family member or a friend that you end up wanting to take care of. Does that make you biased to the friend as far as to an extent? Yes. But if you decide to cover for them when they're in the wrong, that's where it's bad. You can still treat something with some kind of like moderate, genuine care.
Is Mike Pence.
Oh,
Across Indiana homes, his voice warmly welcomed
You like the cuck to get the shock Pence?
It did not warmly
and stole
welcome the
radio
gays.
waves with conservative commentary, our American ideals. But much like the man who inspired him, Mike didn't grow up a Republican.
President said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
His grandfather was a hard worker.
Reagan would hate
drove
Pence.
a bus
So.
to provide for his family. His father
Yeah,
served
probably would.
bravely in the Korean War and earned a Bronze Star.
You probably wouldn't be a fan of his homophobia.
No. So what's interesting is today,
The foundation
today
of America
JFK
is
would be a Republican,
and the foundation
and Ronald
of
Reagan would be like
is
a
faith.
blue dog Democrat.
It was in this
Why
small
would Reagan be a Democrat?
foundation of
He'd
faith
be
in
like a
Jesus
blue
Christ
dog
was
Democrat,
laid,
or he'd be maybe an
and from that
anti-Trump
day,
Republican, like a John
love of
Kasich
people
type.
and service to
Yeah, I
God.
think that's more likely. But like, what makes you say he would be a blue dog Democrat?
They married, have 3 children.
Just on his policy
Charlotte,
policy
and
position.
Audrey.
I'm a
He's like the
Christian,
complete inverse of
conservative,
Trump.
and a Republican, in that order.
Think he- Give me some examples.
President of a
Trade
free
is a
market
good example. One.
host of a statewide
Number
conservative
2, he was more
radio show,
internationalist than
and
Trump.
a congressman
Number 3,
in Washington,
definitely more like he definitely wouldn't like Trump's approach, the way he talks, all that.
Fight to protect our time-honored values of family,
additionally,
life, liberty, and limited government.
Trump.
Our nation's strength begins at
hold on,
home,
I want to see what he has to
strong
say.
families make a strong America.
Mike earned the trust in the 15th governor of
Trump wouldn't like how anti-abortion Trump is. I mean, Reagan wouldn't like how anti-abortion Trump is.
Manufacturing.
Because Reagan signed a pro-choice bill.
But he
wasn't. Oh yeah, Reagan would also despise Trump's immigration policy.
Mike Pence. Oh yeah, because he was relatively pro-immigration.
Yeah, he wasn't just pro-immigration; he was pro-open borders.
Whoa, faced Reagan
of the United States. Governor Mike.
Yeah, I don't agree on open borders, especially with how things have been.
To those threads of freedom woven through our history.
Why do you hate the global poor?
Goes alongside President Trump.
The global poor, you jackass. What do you mean?
Why do you hate the global poor?
He's been a fantastic.
I don't hate the global poor, but you don't always get decent people coming in from across the border. Look at Tijuana.
You hate the global poor.
Some retreat from those ideals. Have lifted and tried.
Again, not the global poor. I just hate the bad ones that come through.
I say bad people in general.
Stars and stripes do not
Same, but that's what I'm saying. You give them open borders, you make it easy for the bad ones to get through.
As the sun
borders doesn't mean like you can't have like certain you can't like ban people who like have certain crimes.
But that's why I mentioned Tijuana, because look at Tijuana when we had the migrant caravan issues. You had mostly criminals over there, and all you had over there was Tijuana backing up everyone when they said, yeah, these are mostly criminals. We don't even know where the pants for most of these kids are.
The thing is, like, most immigrants that come in aren't Mexicans, but from other Latin American countries. Like, okay, so I am not for the wall, but like if they're going for the wall, most the best thing to do would be to like make some kind of an agreement with Mexico or something, or even Panama. A little wall in Panama,
Mrs. Karen,
because a lot of the countries that came up like with the caravan were like the ones that come before Panama, so they went through Panama. That little sliver. That's like,
you're talking about like what, fucking Ecuadorians and Colombians?
Well, with the exception of Ecuadorians. Oh yeah, exactly.
Well, during that entire thing, you had all of the immigrants from the migrant caravans literally robbing people, beating people. There was claims of rape happening to the citizens over there, and Tijuana was backing up all their claims. And you had CNN and everyone else being like, no, it's just Trump propaganda.
Well, that was something that was actually happening. So
I know. I'm saying they literally had the worst kind of situation with that.
Let's see what this jackass has to say.
Well, as far as that goes, that's why I'm against open borders.
He's just like not a likable person. I mean, Trump is kind of likable in his own way.
Evening,
I mean, I don't like him, but like I see why.
It's an honor to speak to you tonight.
But like,
are any of these people wearing masks right now?
Hallowed grounds of Fort.
No, because they take the HCQ treatments.
That inspired the words of our national anthem.
Jesus Christ! Why did the mask shit have to become a fucking culture war issue?
Land of heroes.
Because every like position one side takes, the other side takes the opposite. If Trump came out in favor of oxygen, the Democrats would find a way to be against it, and vice versa.
Just like when he pardoned Susan B. Anthony, and they took time to bash her because he did.
Crush our revolution.
Yeah,
I think that would have happened regardless. Actually,
and to end the American experiment.
I think that would have happened regardless of who.
The heroes who held
pardoned them.
No.
Took their stand.
No, I think so.
No,
dude, I do not have that much faith within intersectional feminist movements for them to be like.
And those ideals have defined our nation.
Well, there's a difference between first and second wave feminism versus the ones that came after. At least with the ones that were just want to be treated like
now
equal.
It's dominated by third and fourth wave intersectional feminists.
Democrats spent.
Yeah, but I mean, not every single one of them bashed Susan B. Anthony, but just because Trump praised her and.
No, but I'm not going to say like Obama did. I think you would still have like a contingent of people who are like, oh no, this bitch a racist.
where Joe Biden
should
said
honor
American darkness.
I mean, maybe one or two people, but not as bad as it was when Trump did it. You got it to the point where even the media was talking about it. It was a completely different scale.
In these challenging times, our country needs a president who believes in America.
Not denying what you're saying, but it's definitely a big difference in contrast to the amount from when Trump does it versus when
I
someone
just want the
else
culture
does
war
it.
to end, dude. I don't give a shit about this. I fucking hate the culture war.
America
Well, that's
needs
on the left,
four
man.
more
No one
years
wants to wake up dealing with what's been
Donald
going on.
Trump in the White House.
I don't think, honestly, if Hillary Clinton would have won, I think I don't think like the left would be as fucking retarded as they are right now.
Honestly,
Oh no, it would have been just as bad.
The reason
No,
I
do not think so.
The reason I voted for Clinton was because I figured she was so fucking greedy and corrupt that she would make us a ton of fucking money.
FEMA has mobilized resources and
Base.
supplies for those in harm's way.
I don't know, man.
She would have made us a ton of money. Like she was.
Well, also, I mean, in retrospect, if I could vote in 2016 and I was the same person,
and know that
I would
we'll be with you
probably I would have voted Trump freshman year, but like now, I would have fucking voted Hillary Clinton.
Respond and recover.
I don't know, man.
Honestly, her foreign policy is way better.
Maybe depending on what you've read, but I've read too much stuff to say I agree, and I can't agree.
Donald Trump has the best foreign policy.
Because
since
I knew
Nixon.
that Donald
There, I
Trump
said
No,
leadership.
no, absolutely not.
And for the last 4 years.
What has China's influence has only grown under Trump's fucking
every day
retarded ass trade war stuff.
That he made.
Well, yeah.
You mean with China? Because China definitely has it coming from what they've been doing.
Well, no, okay. What has Trump done to counter Chinese influence? What has he done that's actually fucking worked? Nothing.
Well, you have to keep in mind, you also have the Democrats have been fighting against him on every little thing. I mean, hell, with COVID alone, there's several different things I can cite to you from a 30-page document, if you will like.
I'm just pro-India, guys. I'm just like all around pro-India.
Oh, no, I love India, too. They were the only ones in the beginning that were like, F you, China. There's actually videos of them sitting there saying, we don't believe you because you lie. And it's like, oh, I love these people. That guy had to translate it for me. I loved him for it. But yeah, bottom line, Democrats have been sabotaging it left and right. It'd be one thing if they actually tried to work with the Congress and that instead of working against everyone if they agree with Trump. But sadly, that's the case.
American people in this office has been a journey.
Are you a Trump supporter?
Now I've been since everything from 2019 as well as 2020, and I can back it up with actual cited sources after the stream if you like.
Oh, fucking cringe.
Wife, Karen.
By all means, cringe all you like, man. But I can prove what I'm saying.
I'm actively cringing.
Yeah,
if you say so.
I can see him cringing. He's cringing so hard, like I can.
I'm politicrat. Understands the pain I'm suffering right now.
Outstanding.
Why? Because of what this guy's talking about?
United States.
Well, that and I mean
I'm
anything
so proud.
Pence says is cringe. Like
God,
even if he says good morning, it is cringe.
And we couldn't be more proud of our 3 children.
God, dude, he's like
Marine Corps Captain Michael J. Pence.
Such a boomer. He's like
his wife, Sarah.
him and Trump are what's wrong with the Republican Party. They need to excise the populists and evangelicals.
Our daughter.
I think the
Charlotte
evangelicals
Pence
are worse than the populists.
an author, and the wife of Henry,
I mean,
who is currently deployed.
I'd say the populists are worse, but like I don't know. I wouldn't die on that hill. I would have a hard time choosing.
And our youngest, a recent law school grad.
Oh, also Trump's trade policy is fucking terrible. Why would you vote for that?
Exactly.
Like
No,
so
that is the
many
worst
other
part about it.
Americans had to delay their wedding this summer.
Fuck, my
Maybe you know better about that in particular. My points earlier was strictly about what China's been doing as well as how people have been working against them. That you can't change overall. And like I said, I can back up what I mean later.
Fine, we'll get into this later because Trump has done nothing.
And again, you'd be right to criticize him if no one else was working against him. Sadly, they've been and sabotaging it, just like with COVID. CDC approves a 60-plus-year-old drug as safe for all ages and actual pregnant mothers.
87 years.
And the Democrats denounce it left and right until they catch COVID. Amy Klobuchar, New York City Councilman Balone, and Karen Witter literally take COVID the instant they get take HCQ the instant they get it. And then the Democrats try to silence them and they try to talk about how useful it was.
Look at this old lady. What's
Thank
she
you,
doing?
Mom.
Oh, it's his mommy. Oh, mommy.
She's still alive.
Over the past
She's-
4
How old
years,
is Mike?
Like
I've
63,
had the
maybe.
privilege to work closely with
I don't
our
know.
Let me look up how old his parents are. Oh, he's 61. Oh, he's way younger than I thought.
He does not. Yeah, he looks old for his age.
But there's no doubt how President Trump sees America.
Something
sees
to
America
get,
for what it
something to make money from.
Of Anne, Jane, Nancy,
than any other.
Anne
A
Jane.
nation that deserves far more gratitude than grievance. And if you want a president who falls silent when our heritage is demeaned or insulted, he's not your man. Now, we came by very different routes to this partnership. And some people think we're a little bit different. But, you know, I've learned a few things watching him. Watching him deal with all that we've been through over the past 4 years. He does things in his own way, on his own time.
Yeah, he does.
Not much gets past him. And when he has an opinion, he's liable to share it. He's certainly kept things interesting.
Yeah.
But more importantly, President Donald Trump has kept his word to the American people.
Oh my God, dude! How can you say that with a straight face?
Where's the wall? He hasn't kept
Where's the wall?
I'm not for the wall, but he hasn't kept his word on
Nancy
it.
Pelosi and Chuck Schumer would like to have a word about why the wall isn't there.
Brought more independence, energy.
All you got to look up is White House, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck, Trump.
Schumer voted yes on the wall, actually.
Not if you look up that meeting until they ended up having that little live debate. That was all them saying, no, we ain't having this wall. You can't do this. Until Trump said he'll take responsibility for them refusing. And that's when they had that government shutdown for weeks.
Trust me, if Biden becomes president, they're probably actually going to go.
Oh, I know. They probably would then. But they're not going to do it with Trump in office.
Donald Trump.
Like I said, they go against it.
And from day
just
one,
because it's him.
We rebuilt our
Just like when they shut down the government, all because Trump said he would take the blame for it publicly on actual video evidence on the debate.
In our national defense since the days of Ronald Reagan, and created the first new
I can't hear you, man.
our armed forces.
My laptop accidentally closed.
The United States Space Force.
Space Force was actually kind of a okay idea. Not gonna lie.
Space Force, I agree with actually.
With that renewed energy, we also returned American astronauts to space on an American rocket for the first time in nearly 10 years.
That's kind of cool.
After years of scandal, robbed our veterans of the care that you earned in the uniform of the United States.
Hey, Politicrat, once my roommate finally moves into college, I'll probably can't be very often.
Dude, I cannot hear a single thing you said.
For every veteran in America.
Seriously? Can you hear me now?
Dude, you're like roboting.
Uh-oh. Here,
Wait,
let me...
say it,
Our armed
say it again.
forces and our veterans build this land of heroes. Many join us tonight in this historic fort. Tonight we have among us 4 recipients of the Medal of Honor. Six recipients of the Purple Heart. Gold Star Mother of a gallant Navy SEAL.
There we go. How do I sign up?
And wounded warriors from
like Optimus Prime.
A group that serves our injured veterans.
Okay.
every day. We are honored by your presence. And
Let me close some tabs.
I can hear you now.
Okay. I just have a lot of shit running because college. Yeah, see, none of these fuckers are wearing masks. That's so stupid.
No, what if they just all die? I don't know. I really don't care if they wear masks or not. I mean, it'll reduce the surplus population.
I don't know, man. I mean, some of the people over there are actually taking HCQ treatments.
Dude, what is it with you and HCQ treatments? That's what I don't understand. Like,
I told you a good amount of what I said last stream. Overall, when you have a lot of tests proving that unless you're not physically capable of taking it, it can be useful against combating COVID when you actually have mixed drugs with it, professionally prescribed to you, of course. that literally it can help inhibit the spread of COVID.
And I was there.
That's why I mentioned the 3 Democrats that currently are being silenced. Well, one, the other one's still going with the same denouncing of it, but 3 Democrats that did take it when they immediately got COVID, and the moment they try to speak of it, the other Democrats are shutting them up. Again, everyone's saying it's a dangerous drug. 60 plus years of it being safe, for including pregnant women and all ages, including children.
Joe Biden
Kind of hard to believe that.
I'm following those decisions.
Especially when they'll still
some
take
of the research is conflicting right now, you know?
Yeah, well, you have the research also being lied. Look up Brazil. They actually ended up overdosing people with chloroquine, which is an unsafe version of HCQ.
I mean, that's
and they
why
overdose
when the
patients with
vaccine,
it.
that's why when the vaccine comes out, I'm probably going to wait a little bit before I take it. I just kind of want to see like what it does first.
That the Secretary
You can take it all you want, but it's very expensive. Look up how it's been. Everyone's been literally talking about like
no. I said I am going to wait before I take it.
Nearly every major.
I'm just saying in general. I'm not saying whether or not like I didn't misunderstand you. I'm just saying.
I mean,
in general.
I know a majority of people are going to take it eventually, but like I think it's stupid to take it right away.
Up to our enemies.
I don't know, man.
Like
when I was looking at. When I looked into it overall, it was not really looking promising, especially with the price they want for it.
What, the
definitely need health insurance for it. Yes.
Setting the stage.
HCQ can get over the counter. Remdesivir.
Years.
And I'm definitely not taking it though if it comes out of China or the WHO.
Closer to home.
I feel like the one that's being manufactured by Oxford is going to come out first.
We supported the right to life.
Currently, the only thing that even looks promising is the plasma treatments and HCQ treatments that people have been looking into. The plasma ones seem a little more experimental, but those are actually promising.
I'm with the HCQ, man. Like, I mean, I don't believe the Democrats are like being honest about it, but it's you're treating it like it's some kind of like big lifesaver.
I'm not saying that it's a big lifesaver, but they're literally saying do not take this whatsoever. Meanwhile, if like I said, it's literally like if they said, hey, you got a cold, you know, you could eat chicken noodle soup to make it better. Don't do that anymore. It will kill you. It's like, excuse me. Last time I checked, it was soothing for the throat.
All across America.
To be fair, there's a difference.
Our country.
Yeah, I was about to say that's not the best analogy.
Taking a drug.
Then let me put it to you like this then. Well, again, 60-plus-year-old drug approved by the CDC for several years, several decades, for all ages, including pregnant mothers.
I
How come it's dangerous now?
But hydroxychloroquine was not designed to treat coronavirus.
That's why they're supposed to combine it with different drugs. Zinc, Citromax, some called it, I can't pronounce this one, but I think it's Zetromycin. I can't pronounce it for the life of me. But that's why they're supposed to combine it with certain things to help it inhibit COVID spread. It's not being designed or like expressed as an all-beat-all cure, but it is being described as a treatment, which they don't want to do. You have literally the Democrats saying it's not even a treatment. It's like that's all they're talking about it is being a treatment. Though why is it so bad, such a bad thing to even try it?
The United States.
Okay,
Guys,
guys,
let's save this for let's save this for a stream or something.
Travel.
Okay, fine.
The second largest economy.
All right.
Now that action stayed untold America.
The China virus.
And I can tell you firsthand,
coincidence.
it bought us invaluable time to launch the greatest national mobilization since World War II. President Trump marshaled the full resources of our federal government from the outset. He directed us.
Okay, so I don't think that like it's Trump's fault or anything, but Trump is not like Mike Pence is giving Trump too much credit. Like, I mean, like objectively, like, just the government sucked with its reaction. I'm not even.
Oh my God, dude, it was terrible.
I'm not even going to say it's. I'm not even going to single out Trump. I'm just going to say the government did a terrible job in general.
Well, yeah, for one thing, I think half of it is like to the governors, half of it is to the president.
Billions.
Yeah,
because like there were, for one, he shut down travel to Europe too late. I think.
Doctors,
no, he did that right with even Fauci agreeing with him in that. Even though Fauci was bashing it a little bit, he did agree with Trump. He should have done it soon.
Even a day is too late.
Yeah, dude. With this pandemic shit, you can't.
And he was way too late closing it down.
Don't get me wrong, I agree with you there, but you have to keep in mind what happened at the time. You had China saying, no, it's not the bad thing. The quarantine being broken is no problem. And then you had the Democrats and CNN saying it didn't matter. Even though Dr. Lee reached out to CNN, which is covered by Vice, telling them automatically that it's a perfectly okay thing, don't worry about it, and then you have Dr. Lee telling CNN, no, it's a bad thing automatically, take my word for it, it's a bad thing, until the CCP silenced him. CNN didn't share anything that Dr. Lee shared with them until after the pandemic hit.
Joe Biden said,
And then even then, they blamed it on Trump.
that no miracle is coming. Well, what Joe doesn't seem to understand is that America is a nation of miracles.
You know what I call the Republican worldview?
And
right, at least right now, I call it vulgar optimism.
To have the world's
it's probably the best way to describe
safe,
it.
Effective coronavirus vaccine by the end of this year.
As long as it's not remdesivir at the moment, unless they change that thing up.
After all the sacrifice in this year like no other, all the hardship, we're finding our way forward again. But tonight, our hearts are with all the families who've lost loved ones and have family members still struggling with serious illness. In this country, we mourn with those who mourn. We grieve with those who grieve. And this night, I know that millions of Americans will pause and pray for God's comfort for each of you. You know, our country doesn't get through such a time unless its people.
I honestly think Pence would be a worse president than Trump.
The response of doctors, nurses.
That's a hard one.
I don't know him enough to say.
I think Trump. I think
truckers and everyday
Pence is smarter than Trump, and he's more slimy.
Of their neighbors first has been nothing short.
Trump's just like a doofus, but like.
I mean, I think Pence would definitely be worse on LGBT issues.
No, Trump is actually good, okay on LGBT issues. Like, I'm gonna give him that.
Every day.
Like, I mean, he's not conservative socially, which is, I think, an upgrade from like Bush. But
she stayed on the job, put in the long hours until it was done, and then got back.
I mean, that transgender military band, though.
Help neighbors and friends.
Well, yeah, no, but to be fair, like the Democrats,
her brother William,
were for that too, like a couple years ago.
He's a New York City firefighter.
I'm just talking about like Trump was the first president to run on a pro LGBT platform, which is kind of hilarious. And I mean, with the exception, I mean, Obama, his second term, technically did.
You had earned the
but
admiration
Trump was like the first
American
president to do it in his first
term. And we will always be grateful for your service and care.
I mean, he certainly could have been worse, but I don't think Trump has been good in LGBT issues.
He hasn't really done much at all, honestly.
I mean, yeah, you did have that thing where they expanded the 1964 Civil Rights Act to cover gender identity and sexual orientation, but I wouldn't credit that to Trump.
Thanks to the courage and compassion of the American people, we're slowing the spread. We're protecting the vulnerable. And we're saving lives.
No, you're not.
And we're opening up America again.
Well, it's a group effort from the Democrats as to why not.
Forward in our first 3 years.
Dude, you can't just keep blaming the Democrats for this.
3 million jobs in
Trump.
Well, tell me this: are they working with him? Yes or no? Are they working with him? Yes or no?
Yes, the Democrats and the Republicans are the same exact political party. There's no difference between the Democrats and the Republicans.
We're opening up
the biggest lie that the establishment ever told the American people is that we have 2 separate political parties, when in reality there's only one. It is the welfare, warfare, Wall Street party. And it's all a sham. It's all a sham. They pretend to hate each other.
Well, then let me ask you this, and why? Then let me ask you this, and why is it that we were discussing how the left have been lately, and you even talked about the DNC earlier?
No. We were talking about the left. We're talking about the Democrats right now.
I know that, but they've been supporting the left.
No, they've just been like. They haven't really been doing anything.
In the days ahead, as we open
I don't know, man.
They've just been ignoring it, which is just as bad, I think. But
no, they've been ignoring and supporting and promoting them. Ask Portland when they're being released daily, because Biden's staff, as well as the other Democrats, are releasing them day in and day out when they're rioting and doing more. That is supporting them, whether or not you want to agree.
Ask yourself.
I don't like blaming just the Republicans or the Democrats on anything. I blame individuals.
I hate that too, but when I actually can, I hate to admit it, but I will.
Recovery since the Great Depression.
Just like how I would blame Trump if he did something horrible, like I used to back in 2016, I am blaming the Democrats now when they're actually doing horrible things right now in 2020, as well as 2019 and 2017 and so on.
4 more years of
That's what being unbiased is, whether or not you guys want to agree with it. Sadly, the Democrats are making that easy to blame them. And I have several documents and proof to back that up. You guys would have 100% points.
Americans were passing through a time of testing.
If the Democrats weren't working against everything.
In the midst of this global pandemic.
Maybe it's because I read into the worst kind of stuff. Maybe that's why I can say it so easily, but that means I'm also reading into stuff that I am actually seeing with my eyes.
Chaos in the streets of our major cities. President Trump and I will always support the right of Americans to peaceful protest. The rioting and looting is not peaceful protest. Tearing down statues is not free speech. And those who do so will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Last week, Joe Biden didn't say one word about the violence and chaos engulfing cities across this country. So let me be clear. The violence must stop, whether in Minneapolis, Portland, or Kenosha. Too many heroes have died defending our freedom to see Americans strike each other down. We will have law and order on the streets of this country for every American of every race and creed and color.
Well, I will correct him on one thing. Biden actually did say a word about Kenosha, and that was that he gave support to the rioters because he thinks that a rapist who has domestic abuse and everything else on his belt, harassing a victim nonstop, and getting shot when he refuses to actually listen, when he's still harassing that woman with 3 cops telling him to stop, he says that was against the cops and they were at fault. No. Sorry, he did say that.
When they walk out that door, they consider
yeah, that's true.
More important than their own. People like Dave Patrick Underwood,
Frank
an
Underwood,
officer in the Department of Homeland Security.
Dude, you're dude, for 2 days in a row. I mean, I guess not 2 days in a row.
During the riots, you know.
The second time you asked me to stream, you're so lucky I don't have like class until like 1:30 tomorrow.
Dave's heroism is emblematic of the heroes that serve in blue every day. And we're privileged tonight to be joined by his sister, Angela. Angela, we say to you, we grieve with your family. And America will never forget or fail to honor.
Where is he at?
Patrick Underwood.
Well, also, how long is like the Trump campaign going to keep saying Joe Biden wants to defund the police when that's not the case?
You don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement.
You've seen those ads, right, Politicrat?
And standing with our African American neighbors.
Maybe.
No, he's been saying that he doesn't support defunding the police, but when he gets asked about if he thinks they should, he says, we need to relocate the funds.
And from the first days of this administration,
he wants to put $300 million more into police.
And we will keep supporting law enforcement.
That's not a new thing he's been saying, man. Again, I've been really getting into this. It's really hard to say that. I wish you were right. Trust me, I would love to be corrected.
He said him and Kamala both agreed they want to put more funding into police in order to help it reform. We need to put $300 million.
True, but prior that, though, he was saying, no, I don't believe in defunding the police, but I want to relocate the funds. It's not like he made that transparent at the time. That's why I'm saying is that as a correction.
Well, for one, I think there is a difference between defunding the police and reallocating funds.
When asked whether he support cutting funding,
I agree with you there, but again, that's not what he said at the time. Now, maybe with Kamala, he's been changing different, but that doesn't change what he was saying before. Just like Elon Musk.
It's like super law and order. That's why I don't like her.
The violence in
Dude, he's been saying that shit before Kamala.
No, yeah. I mean, he has been. He's like one of the most authoritarian Democrats.
Won't be safe in Joe Biden's America.
Not on trade, except on like.
And under President Trump, We will always stand with
Just like
those
Ilhan
who
Omar, who said we need to eliminate everything that's racist in the system, and she was targeting everything between defunding the police, the economy, and more. And everybody says, no, she never said that. Meanwhile, several articles cited it, quoted her, same exact thing.
Okay, don't put Joe Biden and fucking Ilhan Omar in the same camp.
One of them is not funded by Hamas.
I'm just saying her in general.
Americans were passing
I'm
through a
just
time of
saying in general.
soon we will come to a time for choosing.
As a contrasting point overall about how some people are saying one thing is not being said, but it is being said.
And many were asking, transition to what?
Although Joe Biden was pretty based when he told Ilhan Omar to stop being an anti-Semite, which was based.
That was pretty cool. She is an anti-Semite.
And if I were them, I wouldn't either.
Everyone's been telling her that. She still doesn't listen, and she still gets support.
Tell his followers that Joe Biden would be the most.
Well, that's because anti-Semitism on the left is a major problem.
He said,
I agree. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying she still refuses to listen, and they still want her in office.
But the Democrats do not like her, though. The mainstream Democrats do not like her. It is the left, the far left. They like her.
In the
I
Democratic
think we need to
I know.
differentiate between the two
At the
because
root of their
most
agenda
Democrats are not far left.
is the belief that America is driven by envy, not aspiration.
I mean, I won't say the ones that are not. I won't say the ones that are literally saying
Instead of loving our
like
neighbors,
not as open as AOC in them are. As far as them not saying anything at all and trying to speak out against it in all ways and one, that's why I don't really mention them. Like I said, I haven't seen a single one of these people actually try to speak out against everything and get everything rectified. And the most that they do is just stay silent. They maybe they're a silent majority. I don't know. But it doesn't make it easy to support them either.
Their agenda is based on government control. Our agenda is based on freedom.
Keep in mind, 2019, we have more people supporting the Republicans because of how bad the left have been and how no one in the Democratic side has been trying to fix anything. Portland, Seattle, all of those places are perfect example of that.
This president achieved energy independence.
My father lost his son in the Chaz, and Jenny Durkin says nothing about it. Son calls the father while he's grieving, tries to get support, tries to get Portland to take, well, not Portland, Seattle to get help. Jenny Durkin denies him. The only time she cared is when the BLM showed up on her block, and that's when she ends the chopping that. Not when there's deaths, not when there's shootings, not when you actually have a video footage of the people from the BLM inside of Chaz hiding bullet casings after another shooting. No, it's when they actually provoke her. That's when she cared.
And he actually criticized President Trump for suspending all travel to China.
And I hope she gets completely voted out. Jenny Durkin's the worst freaking person I've seen as far as anything.
Borders, sanctuary cities, free lawyers and health care for illegal immigrants.
Summer of love.
President Trump.
Free health care for illegal immigrants. Based.
No. Built nearly 300 miles of that border wall.
Yeah, not for illegal immigrants.
Ironic, okay?
Joe Biden wants to end school choice.
Does he?
President Trump believes that
I don't think so.
every parent should have the right to choose where their children go to school.
Some blue states are trying to, so maybe.
Probably does, I believe Kamala wants to end school choice.
President Trump.
Some of the blue states want to, so maybe.
Has stood without
because they're owned by like the unions, basically.
Every day of this
teachers' unions are parasites.
Dude, we should unironically abolish teachers' unions.
Unironically abolish teachers' unions. I agree, 100%.
Right up to the moment of birth. When you consider their agenda,
No, just like with the police, I think they should be reformed. There's no reason to abolish a system when it benefits some people, especially those people. System is actually helping some good people.
Teachers' unions do not benefit anybody, except teachers who. No, except the union bosses, basically.
Last week, Joe Biden said
because the reason.
On the ballot.
Oh, hold on, I want to hear what he has to say.
And the truth is, our economic recovery is on the ballot. Law and order are on the ballot. But so are things far more fundamental and foundational to our country.
Dude, he needs to stop. This is going on so long.
Not so much whether America will be.
The Joe Biden campaign just texted you guys.
More Republican.
I'm sorry.
Somehow they got my number too.
The choice in this election.
No, I actually actively texted. I texted
America.
The 30330 number.
I didn't. Somehow the Democrats got my number.
And our grandchildren. A country.
They're desperate. Now they're just being like, oh, the NSA gave it to us.
free markets, and the unalienable right
Did they
to
send
life
you a picture with like an invite with a Crayola crayon scribbled on it?
is fundamentally transformed into something else. We stand at a crossroads, America. President Trump has set our nation on a path of freedom and opportunity. Joe Biden would set America on a path of socialism and decline.
Oh, God, no, he won't.
I'm not going to let it happen.
I don't know about that, man.
Dude, if you think Joe Biden is a leftist, like you...
Dude, did you not watch...
I want to know...
Again, when he's sitting there denouncing when he gets into it by both Bob Avakian and Richard Spencer, he only denounced as Richard Spencer, not Bob Avakian. I have a red flag.
No, it's for
Every
optics.
day, our
It's
president
optics.
has been
He doesn't
fighting
actually
to
want
expand
socialism.
the reach of the American dream.
So then why not denounce Bob Avakian? He made public about Bob Avakian, the leader of the Revolutionary Communist Party.
It's for
And now it's
optics.
our
He
turn
wants the left wing's vote.
to fight for him.
It's optics. Just like why Trump
Optics?
didn't.
So I'm listening.
No, hold on, I want to see what.
On this night in the company of heroes, I'm deeply grateful. Deeply grateful for the privilege of serving as vice president of this great nation and to have the opportunity to serve again. I pray to be worthy of it, and I will give that duty all that's in me. In the year 2020, the American people have had more than our share of challenges. But thankfully, we have a president with the toughness, energy, and resolve to see us through. Now, those traits actually run in our national character. As the invading force
How is he still talking?
to this fort,
God, his speech is so long.
Boring.
Against fierce.
This is the worst.
The nun was literally the. I would expect her to talk this long. She had like what, 5 minutes?
From those who are with us.
Not even.
Maybe 3.
The enemy was counting on them to
3,
quit.
4, yeah.
But they never did.
Oh, the woman that talked about her Down syndrome son didn't talk this long, and I think she would have been fine for it.
Well, Pence is like the main highlight. So I mean, it makes sense, I guess. But like, he's just not interesting. At least Trump is entertaining. Pence is like just a boomer.
My fellow Americans, we're going through a time of testing.
Yeah, you said that like 3 times.
But if you look through the fog of these challenging times, you will see our flag is still there today.
You know, it's ironic that he mentions the flag, and I saw a flag burning earlier.
Over the land of the free and the home of the brave. From these hallowed grounds, American patriots in generations gone by did their part to defend freedom. Now it's our turn. So let's run the race marked out for us. Let's fix our eyes on Old Glory.
Old Glory.
And all she represents. Let's fix our eyes on this land of heroes and let their courage inspire. And let's fix our eyes on the author and perfecter of our faith and our freedom.
God, our Lord Jesus Christ.
And never forget.
Yep.
That where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. That means freedom always wins.
Except in the Middle East.
My fellow Americans, thank you for the honor of addressing you tonight. And the opportunity to run and serve again as your vice president.
God, this has gone on for too fucking long.
I leave here today inspired. And I leave here today.
Ooh, Chicago liberals on Discord right now.
That we will do in our time, as Americans have done throughout our long and storied past.
Did Trump already speak tonight?
We will defend our freedom.
No, he didn't speak tonight at all.
And our way of life.
I thought he was speaking every night.
We will reelect our president.
Maybe?
and principled Republican leaders across the land.
Principled
And with
Republican
President
leaders,
Donald
lol.
Trump in the White
Principled
House
leaders,
for 4
lol.
more years, and with God's help,
I mean, nobody thinks Trump is
we will
principled,
make
though. I mean,
America
people like him, but
great
even the
again.
people who like him know that he has no principle. He just does, like, I mean, they just like what he does.
Thank you.
He just owns the libs, guys.
And God bless.
I mean, as much as I love owning the libs, that can't be it. That's not a feasible platform.
Guys, 175 dead through coronavirus, but at least we own the libs.
Well, again, that's with efforts from the Democrats too, man. You have to place blame everywhere, not just on the one, especially the ones that do the worst.
Yeah, but like, keep.
But what? Can you correct me?
Oh, here he comes! Here he comes, guys! He's coming.
Is it him?
It's him.
Is this Tangerine Man? Is this the Orange Man?
Orange Man, bad guys.
This staff, but unironically.
I feel like Melania's like a cougar, and she's just like fucking a bunch of younger guys.
Oh, dude, she is.
All those college
once Trump
students.
leaves office, they're immediately getting divorced.
I ran into someone that actually. Is it true that she's supposedly a porn star? I heard that was the case.
No, she was not.
I never looked.
She was like a nude model.
Everyone said that she was just a porn star, and I was like, I don't know if that's true.
No, that is not true. That is most definitely
true.
Here to perform our national anthem
is Donald Trump.
Please welcome country music superstar.
Watching me only talks for 5 minutes, I'll be shocked. Only because of Pence.
This is cringe already.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's
early light
what so proud we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright
stars
through the pale.
If they brought Roseanne Barr out to sing the national anthem, that would be funny. Like she did at the Super Bowl that one year, and everyone hated her.
We watched were so gallantly streaming. The rockets red glare, the bombs bursting.
I used to hate hearing this song, but it's so much better after everything else.
But he's not even that great, honestly.
Oh, no, I don't care. I don't like his singing either, but I'm just saying, just hearing this is a lot better than what I've been going through.
Look how few stars are on that flag.
Where all the stars go? Where are they? Are they at like Fort Sumter or some shit?
Looks like it. Oh, that's a dog whistle. Fort Sumter dog whistle.
I mean,
O'er the land.
now, I understand. Why do so many conservatives? Why do they just simp for the Confederacy? Is it just an own the libs thing?
I mean,
Wait,
honestly, I don't know many conservatives who simp for the Confederates. I mean, I've met a few, but like,
no, because it's like you'll have a lot, like especially like people who like are way too into like the culture war.
I mean, Ben Shapiro doesn't.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused. What do you mean simping for the Confederates? Like, what point did this happen in?
I mean, Nikki Haley is like.
Well, I'm not talking about like politicians. I mean, some politicians, but I'm like mostly talking about people like IRL.
Maybe in like the deep South.
Yeah, I'm confused.
In the rural and many places in the rural U.S. and mostly the South and Midwest, They'll just outright display the Confederate flag, even if it's like in rural Iowa, dude.
Well, wait, there's a difference. Some people do that, but like, for example, there was a kid in high school that I think she was in Texas or something. She ended up, she was a Dukes of Hazzards fan. And so she naturally had Dukes of Hazzard memorabilia, including the Confederate flag. People threw a fit about that. They said, you're supporting the Confederacy. She said, no, I like Dukes of Hazzards. So I think you might just get the wrong idea from some cases.
Yeah, but that's not every case.
I know, I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying, like, it's not so common that everything, yeah, you're going to obviously find that, but it's not that drastic.
Dude, my aunt is like, she's from fucking St. Louis, right? But she lives in Kansas City now. But like, she'll just, like, for whatever, just for like the sake of like the culture war, will defend like the Confederacy, even though it's like a stupid hill to die on.
Yeah, I agree with you, but that at that point you're telling me she's just doing it to troll. That doesn't mean she's genuinely supporting them. That's not the same thing you're trying to say.
I mean, I think that turns into genuine support, though.
Not necessarily. Don't get me wrong. I agree with you, but and don't get me wrong, I would never do it. I like to be as precise as possible. Be a scalpel, not a hammer. But when it comes right down to it, though, you're just telling me someone likes to troll the libs. That's not telling me that you genuinely believe what they're saying. It's no different from someone saying a bad word when they get mad enough.
No, I think there's a difference.
Yes, there is a difference, but that's what I'm saying. The difference is there. That doesn't mean these people are genuinely supporting that at that point, at least in the example you're giving me.
No, because she'll start talking about like, oh, how it was really about like fucking tariffs or some shit. My dad does this too. They'll start talking about states' rights or fucking, and they'll talk about, oh, you know, there were blacks that supported the Confederacy. It's like, okay, this is fucking dishonest. The right needs to just get rid of the like Confederate simping, dude.
They're starting to.
I mean, I get that, but like, it's not enough. Like, I don't know why so many people want to die on the hill of like defending Confederate statues, dude.
I mean, again, man, like I said, I mean, even then you're telling me it's just your family, and you also started off telling me that they're just trolling, and now you're telling me that they're actually believing it. Maybe you need more than a few extra words to explain it, but so far it's kind of hard to follow with that.
No, my thing is, it's just like, they'll just take up any position to own the libs, right? So in effect, that just becomes support, or just straight up turns into unironic support.
Okay,
yeah,
even
more
then,
about like the consequence versus intent. Yeah, even if they don't like actually like the Confederacy and they're doing it to own the libs, they're still fucking doing it.
that I can say is stupid too. Like I said, I always like to be precise. Like I said before about Biden not denouncing Richard Spencer, but not Bob Avakian. And both of them are horrible people. Bob Avakian's been promoting the riots and everything else since UC Berkeley when they ended up having their riots 3 years ago. He was promoting that too. But yet Biden is totally fine with him being endorsed by him. I am totally fine with totally denouncing the worst things. But at the same time, though, you're still only telling me these people are just doing it just to be dicks to the libs, even though it's stupid. Yes, I agree, it's stupid, but that doesn't mean that they're going to flat out be like, hey, let's get out there with the Confederacy. They might do it unironically, but that's what I'm getting from what you guys are describing.
Well, and the thing, well, okay. Have you ever like driven through like the rural Midwest or whatever?
I used to live in a very southern part of Florida, so yes.
Oh, okay. So, because like even in like rural Indiana or some shit, I've seen people fly the Confederate flags, even though they're in Union states. And it's even weirder when you get to West Virginia.
All right, but at that point,
you see people touting Confederate flags. It's like,
all right, well, you got a point there, but at that point, you're literally telling me you're going through the areas where that's expected. That's like saying you go into a compound with a KKK, and you get shocked when you see the people in the white sheets. Well, what do you expect?
Okay. West Virginia, the entire reason it's a state is because it broke off during the Civil War because it did not support slavery.
Okay.
Like, do you not see the irony in people in West Virginia today simping for the Confederacy?
Is our fearless leader? Is our fearless leader going to speak?
Is he going to speak, or is he just going to sit there and shake everyone's hand?
But yes, I see that it is ironic that they're doing that, but I also know that there's going to be people that will do that. It's no different from when you run into someone that has a horrible trait or personality and they just exist among everyone that's good. You're gonna find it somewhere.
Well, my thing is, I just see broadly, unlike the right, people will just defend the Confederacy to own the libs. And I think that's a problem.
Again, I think that's stupid too, but that doesn't mean that they generally do it. Yes, it's one thing when you get how you explain that there are people that genuinely do support them, like when you're saying you're going through West Virginia and you're seeing the flag and everything else. But that's not that; those are different people. That's not people trolling anymore. Those are people actually supporting that. And yes, I agree, that's a bad thing. But that doesn't mean everyone's that way. You're just telling me you're finding a few
I'm just saying
examples.
it's a massive problem.
It'd be a massive problem if it didn't, like, if you have this constantly happening all over, then yes. But again, that's going to happen anyway. People are going to believe what they want to believe.
Bro,
they're going to support what they want to support.
Bro, just take down all the Confederate statues and I'll be happy.
I mean, I think they should be moved to museums. There's no reason why you need to take them down.
I don't know.
We need to remember
I
history.
think each town with a Confederate statue should have a referendum. They want it, and yeah, let the local handle it locally.
Replace every Robert E. Lee statue with a fucking General Sherman one, dude.
No, for every Confederate statue, just do an even bigger statue of Malcolm X staring him down.
My only thing is I think they should just be put away for museum purposes. There's no reason why we should forget history, but I totally am fine with moving that history.
There is famously no other way to learn about history, only statues.
No, but why remove it? You can totally change it and move it around. You don't need to destroy it.
Putting it in a museum, I mean, that's what I mostly mean by taking down. I mean, fucking, you can destroy it for all I care.
Oh, that's what you meant. You meant like just put it in a museum too.
I mean, if you want to, or you can destroy it. I don't really care.
Oh, I just think we should always remember it. Just like with those people that say you don't want to talk about World War II because it's a bad thing. No, we need to hear about it. Let's hear about how atrocious it is so we can learn from it.
Bruh.
Hey, there's no harm in learning about stuff. Why be ignorant?
Well, there isn't. I'm not saying we shouldn't learn about it.
I'm just saying that in general, though. That's why I said anything like that should be put away in a museum at worst. There's no reason to destroy them like what people have been doing.
I'll tell you, go to bed. Oh my god, wait, Rand Paul's against the intervention in Serbia? Fuck him.
I am surprised that he's been on the screen for as long as he was and he still hasn't said a word.
Dude, I can't wait for the fucking Al Smith dinner, though.
How is it that he can be here for several minutes and not say a word, but Pence had the entire floor the entire time?
This was Pence's night, essentially. That was the whole point.
That makes no sense.
I mean, it does make sense. Oh, is he about to speak?
It's like watching a porno without the nudity.
Well, then it's not a porno now, is it?
I know, that's my point.
Just dry humping.
Not even, like, they're just like, oh, hey, you ready to steam it up? I was like, yes! And it's just like, cuts to black.
They just dirty talk the entire time.
I mean, guys, I watch porn for the story anyway. So.
I watch hentai for the plot.
I watch it for the acting.
I bet your reviews for each thing you watch is probably tremendously entertaining then.
I like Grace reviewing hentai.
They had amazing outlines, and I love the contrasting colors and shading. The nudity was somewhat there, but I didn't watch that part. I just was there just to see what kind of outfits was drawn on. How is he still not talking?
Is it over? I think it might be over.
Wow. Like, I literally was expecting this. Not this, but like expecting him to be on. What the hell? Oh my God. I'm going to be somewhat upset if I found out there was like an after party and he actually talked there.
You have to subscribe to his Patreon for additional.
No, it's his OnlyFans. Let's be honest.
Trump's OnlyFans.
He's like, I'll totally allow you to watch my ending comments if you subscribe $5 a month on my OnlyFans. $30 gets you a T-shirt, and another $40 gets a pinup calendar of my wife. Have a nice day.
Hey, Alkazei, if you had to choose Trump or Bernie.
Fuck, dude, don't make me do this. I probably abstain from that.
I wonder if the Bernie or bust people actually are content with him still helping out with
Who would you
Biden.
do, Politicrat? Do you have a preference?
Ooh. Okay, so this election season. So I do not like Trump. I've never been a fan of Trump. I think he's funny and entertaining, but I've never been a Trump fan. I understand why people like him, but I personally don't. However, and I've also not been a fan of his policies. However, he's running on a couple issues that I do care about this time, such as school choice. That's a big one. And then I know you and I disagree on foreign policy, Alkazei, but I do lean quite a bit more non-interventionist, and Trump has not started any new wars yet. So, I mean, but I'm not voting for Trump, probably not, unless he does something like great, which I can't see happening. But currently, at the moment, I mean, what I'm probably going to do, I'm probably just going to write in like Jimmy fucking Carter or something.
Do you actually unironically like Jimmy Carter?
Not a huge Jimmy Carter fan, but I'm going to write him in anyway because he's better than what we have now, and he's still eligible.
Who would you prefer for Bernie or Trump?
Ooh.
Not right
now. If you asked me this in 2016, I would have said Bernie. But honestly, right now, probably Trump, but not by much.
The only Democrat I liked is not even in the race anymore.
You already know my position on the Trump-Biden thing, Politicrat.
Yeah. But I mean, if it were between Bernie and Trump, that's I don't know. I mean, if Kamala weren't Biden's vice president pick, I'd definitely be more warm towards Biden because I was scared that I've been scared for like about a year that he was going to pick Kamala.
Dude, it should have been Susan Rice or Tammy Duckworth, for the love of God. I don't know why the fuck he.
It's just such a terrible decision. Nobody likes Kamala. Like, who likes Kamala? Except like a few Karens. Anyway, convention's over, or at least this night is. I think we still have one more night tomorrow. Anyway, before we tune out for the night, what are you guys' thoughts? Personally, I thought it was the weakest of the three nights by a long shot. I thought it was definitely the cringiest night. Last night and Monday night, I thought were for a Republican convention. They were really good. At least, but that may also be because I was expecting it to be worse than the Democratic one. But tonight overall was very cringe. They didn't talk about much, and it was pretty much just tonight, as opposed to the past two nights, it was just talking about how great Trump was, and I thought it was stupid.
I thought it was pretty cringe too, but like I haven't watched any of the other nights, so I don't have a comparison. I will say I preferred the DNC one way better. It was a lot because the DNC one, yes, a lot of it was just anti-Trump hysteria.
And it was people. It was like really cheesy video messages. That's the part that really.
And the thing is, it's like for one, it was a lot less.
It's no. Okay, honestly, do you know what the DNC convention seemed like? It seemed like a YouTube rewind.
Yeah. But the thing is, I don't even think it was that bad. The speeches were pretty good.
Kasich's speech was pretty good.
Yeah,
not gonna lie.
But I just wish they would have talked about policy more.
Exactly. No, yeah. At least now they're like, I mean, the DNC. I mean, yeah. I mean, the RNC convention's a bit of an infomercial for Trump. However, the DNC convention was way more about Biden than the RNC one is for Trump. Like, I definitely get a more like big tent feel about the Republicans right now. And they're actually talking.
Dude, they literally, they literally had fucking John Kasich speak at the DNC.
Well, no, I mean that's an exception. I mean, I'm talking about in terms of policy, like in terms of how in terms of who the Republicans are trying to appeal to right now. I mean, John Kasich is kind of an outlier, and with the Democrats right now. Like, I mean, I know they're trying to appeal to Never Trump conservatives, but Never Trump conservatives are the only conservatives they're going to be able to get on board. And, but the Trump, I mean, I noticed like with the RNC, like their optics are really good right now. Like but they are actually talking about policy more than the Democrats did at theirs. I think that's where the RNC is stronger than the DNC in terms of conventions.
It's not that much policy talk, though.
No,
Well,
but
let me ask you this real fast.
more than the Democrats did.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Earlier when we were talking about how I was bashing the Democrats as I am, even though I clarified what I meant. Quick question. If that's the case, how come we don't hear more about the Democrats that I would presume we could support talking at the DNC then? Wouldn't that be the best place for them if they were really there 24/7?
What's your question?
Why are we not hearing about these Democrats that are actually worth having around and more talking at the DNC? I mean, if they're there and it's at least not as bad as it is with the frontline ones, why are we not hearing about them in the DNC? Shouldn't we be hearing multiple Democrats giving policy talks and more?
They didn't really. I don't remember them ever really talking about policy at the DNC convention. And I watched like 2.5 of the nights.
That's why I'm asking, though.
All of the nights.
Anyway,
I mean it.
Well, looks like we're at 3 hours and 20 minutes about. I think I know there's probably still more to talk about, but I'm going to be.
Dude, I have class and homework to get done. I have a fucking test on Friday.
But yeah, so I mean, I think that's pretty much all we can get out of tonight. I think overall, it's pretty good.
Are you gonna do another stream tomorrow?
I am. I'm planning on it, but yeah.
Let me see if I can make it to that one. Let me see. Let me check my class schedule.
It's fine if you guys can't. I mean, I might just invite a different panel on too, since you guys did tonight. But if I can't find anybody,
no, never mind. Friday I have class at 8.
Oh shit.
I mean, if you start at like 7, right?
Well, we started at what 7:45, close to 8, and then we talked for about a half hour, and then the convention started around 8:30. So,
okay.
All right, guys.
If you start at like 7:30, I can make like the first 30 minutes.
Probably. Well, no, but the convention doesn't start till 8:30.
Oh, okay. Depending on when you start, I might be able to make it. I don't know.
Okay. Well, anyway, guys, that is night 3 of the RNC, the Republican National Cringe, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
All right. See ya. Thanks for having me.